A certain Laylut is congratulated on his skill and he has this assessment. The story is interrupted. On this day he turned 15 years old. He walks down the street and says that it is already quite late. He hoped to finish his work earlier. Suddenly the young man gets scared because something hit him in the back, or rather one could say that it plopped right on him, pushing him so hard that the young man could lose his balance. It turns out that a girl came up to him from behind and pressed herself against his back. He calls her Sylphie. The girl had a very cute face as well as beautiful smooth long hair. Laylut makes a funny face. The girl is very surprised by the sudden behavior of the young man. Then she begins to tremble and hides her face so that the young man does not see her. She goes lower and lower, but the young man tries to look straight into her face. She ends up laughing loudly and says that she always laughs at his face. She calls him Mel. The girl laughs so hard that tears come to her eyes. She also grabs her stomach with her hands. Laylut smiles and listens quietly to the girl laughing. He says that the girl is so lively today. Suddenly the girl calmed down and said with red cheeks that it was because the young man always told her to be happy. The girl smiled calmly and sweetly. The young man reaches out and begins to stroke her head with his hand and says that he sees that she is obedient. The girl smiles sweetly and then begins to rub herself even more against the young man. He says that even despite all the things and his quirks, she became very attached to him. The little girl's name is Sylphina and she is an orphan, meaning she has no parents or any relatives at all. A year ago, her father brought the girl here. Now she lives in the church and her father takes care of her because she has lost all her memories and only remembers her name. She asks him some questions, whether he has finished his work for today, what he is going to do when they will play. He laughs, then grins and says that in fact today he turned 15 years old. Sylphie is surprised and wants to say something, but the boy beats her to it and says that he will finally be able to receive a blessing. The boy still smirks and is proud of himself. She asks if it's true that he can now get a skill from the Mother Earth goddess. She thinks it's cool. She adds that he will become an adult. He thinks and says that there are so many definitions of an adult, but he agrees with this way of thinking. The young man continues to think. She doesn't understand and asks what else he needs to do to become an adult. The young man grins and plunges into nirvana. He thinks of something obscene and embarrassing. His cheeks also become slightly flushed. Sylphina asks again what it is. The young man starts to get even more embarrassed and his whole face turns red from awkwardness. The girl does not understand what is happening to the young man. He awkwardly says that he needs to do a lot of things. A man calls out to Mel Lalute and asks if this is true. The man turns out to be a man named Ro. Ro asks him if Mel is still there. The man is carrying a stack of firewood. Ro tells him that his father is waiting for him. The man himself touches his back, which is stiff from chopping wood. Mel Lalute asks for forgiveness. He tells Sylphie that he is leaving already and she wishes him luck. Mel Lalute wonders what special skill he will get. Now that he thinks about it, he had a hard life. His mother died of illness and his father died of alcoholism. He was always lonely. He will say goodbye to this small town when he gets his skills, finds a job, and becomes a rich man. He thinks to himself that he is being modest by not saying that he will become a millionaire. He, mired in his dreams, runs right through the corridors of the church. He needs a special skill so that he can live confidently away from this cursed place. Apparently, by this cursed place, he means this village and this church. He is told that his skill is evaluation. His father asks him if he is okay. Is he really that surprised? He awkwardly asks if he really got the grade. The man says of course, and one more thing, skills are ranked from S to E, and among all of them, the main character's skill is the worst. Mel Lalute thinks he got an E, just an E. He is very sad and embarrassed by the awkwardness. His father tries to cheer him up and says that he has also acquired the skill of evaluation, and in any case, it is not so bad. Mel Lalute says it is true. Evaluation is a very rare and useful skill. If it is something valuable, he sees it. Whether it is real or fake, he can evaluate people, whether they are good or not. He can't make a perfect evaluation because he is an E rank. He can work in the royal palace if he raises his rank. He thanks his father, who pats him on the shoulder and says that he did nothing. The one who gave him this skill was the goddess of Mother Earth, and he has a talent for it. The young man awkwardly says that he is not sure about this yet. Since he has this skill, he will do everything in his power to increase his rank and be successful. Father says that's for sure, let him try. He says that if he raises his rank, it will be a problem for him, with a knife in his hand which he plunged into Mel's chest. Everything in life at once turned everything upside down in the young man. Mel Lalute panics, not understanding why he did this. He stands up, shaking all over. His father explains that if he is now an E rank, when he rises to a B rank, he will be able to evaluate a person. Mel Lalute tries to pull out his sword and coughs. His father laughs and tells him it's just a precaution. At this point, the boy doubles over in pain. Mel Lalute falls down and coughs up blood. His father says that the reason he pretends to be his father is to find others like him who have the skill of appraisal. He barely breathes, looks up, and sees his father's characteristics. His name is Hegel Ois. He is a great thief and swindler. His skill is deception. Mel Lalute guesses that this is his father's status and is surprised when he reads that he is a great thief and a swindler. It is clear to him that his father did not want him to see this. Hegel tells him that despite this, he is lucky. Even though he is an E rank, the appraisal skill is very rare. If it were not for him in his class, he could become an appraiser and live a wonderful life. At this time, the young man was about to leave this world. The father looks at the young man who is clutching his chest wound and says that he needs to get rid of the body. What a pity, after which he turns away and puts his hand on his thigh. Mel Lalute pulls the dagger out of himself and looks at it and thinks that the time has come, but he doesn't know how to do it but hopes that he can do it. He sees the back of the man's head and calls him a thief named Hegel Ois. The man at this point says he will leave all the dirty work to someone else. The boy at this point opens his eyes wide and is about to read everything about him while he was calling Ro. The man was still screaming and calling for Ro. At that moment, the young man grabbed the dagger and started to approach the man. He stabbed the dagger into his back with sudden speed. The man starts coughing in surprise and falls. The man then tries to break free and swings his hand to hit the boy. Mel Lalute moves away and attacks first from the right. At this time, the father manages to completely heal all the wounds with the help of the goddess's embrace. He is in a great hurry and panics. Mel Lalute realizes that everything is exactly the same as the status. The temporary ability goddess embrace can only be used once, so he can no longer heal himself, so he attacks him with the dagger again. He dies, coughs one last time. Mel Lalute trembles, looks at his deep wound, and then tries to comprehend something, but does not understand why he is still alive. Then he changes his mind because he knows the reason. He looks at the blood on his hands and then at the body in front of him and comes to the conclusion that it is his own doing after all. He uses the evaluation on himself and sees that his unique skill is that he reads the target's information. X rank can read the statistics of any person and can increase knowledge and skills depending on what he reads. His mental state is unstable now. His body has fully recovered with the skill of the goddess's embrace. This is the first time he hears about X evaluation level. Isn't it the highest level? He says this about X rank. If you look at the knowledge, experience, and skills that he had acquired that could be used, it dawns on him that this means that when he read his father's status, he absorbed the skill from him that was used to cure him. His wound was healed by the goddess's embrace, so he was able to move quickly due to his minor agility skill, and he was able to use his dagger because it has a unique ability. All of them belong to the man who attacked him. Then Sylphie suddenly comes into the room and says that she called Ru, addressing her father. She sees her bloody dead father and Mal with a dagger sitting right next to him. She starts to tremble and doesn't understand why this happened, why her father is lying dead and Mal is nearby. Suddenly, Mel Lalute attacks with his dagger. He suddenly grabs Sylphie and pulls her towards him and pushes Ro away from her, who immediately takes pity and backs away. Mel Lalute comes out into the hallway with an outstretched dagger. Ro says how scared he is. He says that the boy killed his father and now he is going to kill him too. Ro continues to raise his hands. He tells him that he is terrible and that he is holding Sylphie hostage. Mel Lalute looks at the girl and starts making excuses, telling her that there is a reason for all this. Ro says he can kill someone if he has a reason. He yells at him to shut up. Ro smiles suspiciously at the boy. Mel Lalute sees the characteristics of Ro, who is the great thief's subordinate. He also knows about Mal's unique skill, can block his moves, hold Sylphina captive, and can't exert too much effort due to his back pain. He shouts that it is the other way around. He is holding Sylphie captive and she is obeying him. He shouts how does he know about Sir Hegel who told him. He furiously says that it seems he needs to teach him a lesson. Mel Lalute thinks that it seems that his only unique skills are taijutsu and strength, so he is going to absorb them while reading. The youth concentrates completely and turns his gaze directly to the enemy. Ro attacks with his fist, he dodges and attacks from below, he falls to his knees and trembles in pain. Mel Lalute immediately kicks him in the stomach. Ro begins to writhe in pain. He is indignant that he is constantly aiming at the spine. In the end, Mel Lalute finishes him off. Sylphie watches all this in fear. Finally, Mel Lalute turns to her. She grabs his sleeves, shakes her head, which means that the young man can just keep quiet. Mel Lalute reads her thoughts with her ability. She asks him to take her with him, not to leave her. Sadness and hope are visible in the girl's eyes. He smiles, becomes embarrassed, and extends his dirty hand to the girl and invites her to come with him. The girl is surprised by this, as if the young man could read her thoughts. She takes his hand and agrees. After some time, the young man and the girl load the cart with all their things, boxes and bags. The young man takes the heavier ones and the girl carries the lighter ones. Soon they set off and leave the village. On the way, he tells Sylphie that it seems the horse can't go any further, so he suggests that they rest here for a while, which she agrees to. Mel Lalute thinks to himself that he stole this carriage from the church, calling himself a murderer and a thief. He deftly jumps off the carriage and then slowly helps Sylphie off as well. The young man wonders how many years he will spend in prison if he is caught. On the way, the boy explained everything to Sylphie while they were driving about his father and Ro. She let him explain without interrupting. The girl was very serious while listening to the boy's story. They stopped by the fire and ate dried meat. He killed a man even though he was a criminal who was trying to kill him. No, he almost killed him. If he said he killed him trying to defend himself, it would have been self-defense. But did he do the right thing and was there another way? However, no, he did not have enough time to think of another way out, so the young man is very tense thinking about all this. He keeps wondering how it all ended up like this if he hadn't acquired this unique evaluative skill, if Hegel hadn't been a criminal, if he hadn't been hiding in the city. He clutches the food in his fist thinking that this is wrong, trying to blame someone else when he decided to live for himself. Didn't he know that he had to be responsible for his actions? Sylphie puts hers on his hand and speaks confidently to calm the boy down, saying that it wasn't his fault. Confidence gleamed in her eyes. Mel Lalute looks at her in surprise at first and then breaks into a smile. She asks him after a silence what he will do from now on. He asks him if she wants to return to her homeland one day. She thinks, then answers that she does not remember anything. Then she adds that if it were possible, she would like to return to her homeland. He smiles and suggests that they set off already. The girl sighs and says that she doesn't know where her homeland is. The boy says that, to tell the truth, he doesn't know much about it. The girl is surprised. Mel Lalute uses his appraisal ability and sees Sylphie's characteristics. He says that it seems that the girl is the princess of the elf kingdom. Her name was Sylphina est Philania, and she is the first princess of the Philania kingdom. This little elf named Sylphina est Philianes ended up losing her memories because of an item. She is a poor girl who was kidnapped by a thief and was going to sell it for a high price. She asks in surprise who the princess is. Mel Lalute says he doesn't know the details either, but if he remembers correctly, the elven kingdom to the east has the same last name as hers. She says it looks like she's the first princess. Sylphie thought that if Mel said so, she would believe him. She nodded and told him that she understood him. The girl herself was very serious. Mel Lalute asks him why she believes him so unconditionally, although it is strange that he himself says this. She looks at him awkwardly. Mel Lalute smiles at her. He was silent for a moment and smiled sweetly, looking at the girl, and then he tells her that when he passed the blessing, he received the skill of evaluation. She is surprised and congratulates him. The girl is very happy. Mel Lalute awkwardly thanks her and then asks her to wait. He asks if she shouldn't react differently since she is the first princess. Isn't she a princess? He sighs and says that since his skill rank is E3, he can evaluate people, and that's how he found out about it. She mumbles about rank, saying that X rank is amazing. Mel Lalute says that actually the first princess should just say that she understood, something like that. The girl thinks about it very hard, putting her finger to her chin. The girl smiles and then asks if that's too much. The boy says that Sylphie is the first princess, so it goes without saying. The young man turns his head towards the girl and is very surprised and embarrassed. The girl closes her eyes and says that it doesn't matter who she is, but for her Mel will be the most important thing. She smiles tenderly at him, puts her head on his lap and clasps her hands around it, then tells him that she treasures him. He looks at her in surprise and blushes and starts making a funny face again. The boy is surprised and looks at the girl. Sylphie is cutely surprised, closes her eyes and starts giggling. The boy becomes embarrassed and smiles, and then he makes a face again. This makes Sylphie incredibly funny. The boy makes more and more faces and the girl starts laughing at his funny face. The girl said that her stomach hurt from laughing so hard. Mel Lalute smiles sweetly and looks at the girl peacefully. He stands up and offers Sylphie to see her family. She looks up because she didn't understand what the boy was trying to say. Mel Lalute says that this will be their new goal. He says that since they know who the girl is, they are now going to the elven kingdom, which is in the east. He asks how she feels about this offer. The young man is determined to fulfill his new goal. She smiles and agrees. He says that he did something bad, they will look for him, so maybe he will cause her trouble. She says that there is no problem as long as she is with him. In the background, someone is actively chewing something in the cart. Mel Lalute says that they will sleep now, and as soon as dawn comes, they will go east. Then they notice that someone continues to chew and then swallows his food. They both turn to the carriage and realize that there is someone there because there is a chomping sound coming from the carriage, like someone chewing. Mel Lalute tells Sylphie to wait there and walks towards the sound. Someone in the cart sees meat, grabs the basket and says that he loves it and that he will take this meat for everyone and also. Here the stranger sees Mel and becomes frightened. As soon as the young man looks inside the carriage, the stranger jumps out of it like a cat. The stranger has a tail and ears like a real cat. From her clothes and slender silhouette, you can tell that she is a girl. Mel Lalute realizes that the alien is fast, but he will be faster, so he grabs the alien by the leg and throws him to the ground. Sylphie at this time thinks that this maneuver looks painful. Mel Lalute at this time thinks that if he reads the status, he will be able to predict any movements of the thief. He tells the stranger to surrender and not to think that he can escape from him. The young man is very serious. Then the young man grabs something soft and he tries to figure out what it is. The stranger starts moaning in pain. She lies with a box of meat and asks what the problem is. The girl says that if the young man wants to eat her, then he should know that she is not very tasty. She asks her to let him go. He sees that it is Clara Ku, an orphan and half-tiger. She is only 13 years old. Mel Lalute immediately pulls away from the girl and then apologizes for grabbing her. She yells at him that this meat is what she found. Does he think she stole it? The boy shouts that it is not and that it belongs to them and the girl is a thief. She hisses and shouts that the law of nature says to take everything that lies unevenly. They begin to argue. He pulls the box of meat and shouts that she will return it to him in any case. Suddenly, the wolf starts to howl, which means an order in the pack. They also came for meat. The girl dug her claws into the box of meat. They growl. Mel Lalute wonders if this is a pack of wolves, since when are they here? He immediately calls Sylphie to him. The girl immediately runs up to the boy. He tells her to hide inside the carriage and not to worry, because he will definitely cope with the impending danger. She obeys and asks him to take care of herself and then runs away to the carriage. Mel Lalute thinks things are bad. There are only 11 of them. He can judge and watch at the same time, but it seems he can only judge one. He only sees their motives and they all want to kill him. He thinks that even if he assesses one by one, they will catch him if they attack in sync. Then his eyes widen and he sees a special wolf a little further away, sitting proudly on the edge of a small rock. He considers him a leader. Mel Lalute is confident that this is undoubtedly their leader, so he begins to assess him. He looks at the wolf carefully, not paying attention to anyone else. Then the young man begins to howl like a real wolf. The leader of the pack is very surprised, and then Clara Ku herself. She blushes and is surprised. The other wolves do not understand what is happening. At this time, the young man jumps from place to place between the wolves and tries to get to the leader of the pack. Finally, he reaches him and grabs the wolf by the neck. The young man says with complete seriousness that now the wolf will listen to him. The wolf's abilities that he saw while he was assessing. The leader of the wolves tells him in his own language that he is listening to him. This wolf has a unique ability to understand human speech. Mal, as he thought he can talk to him, then the young man comes out of his thoughts. The wolf raises his head to look at the man and then says that they are not hostile. The wolf asks him what the reason is for the young man throwing Clara on the floor and saying bad words to her. The girl at that moment was clutching a basket of meat and carefully watching everything that was happening. At that moment, Sylphie peeked out. The boy said that regarding his insult to him, he actually just wanted to take their food, which the girl was going to steal. The boy was embarrassed and the wolf was surprised by this. The wolf says that he understands, and if he is robbed, he steals back. That is the nature of the forest. Mel Lalute understands that the wolf's hostility has been cancelled. The leader was behaving very obediently, and the young man at that moment continued to hold him. The wolf asks Mel to forgive the girl because she is like a daughter to him. He taught her to always obey animal instincts. He is surprised. What kind of daughter? At this time, the girl opened the basket and thought that she would take another piece of meat. The wolf explains that they have no blood ties when they attacked a carriage with people who were kidnapped by traders of prohibited goods who were supposed to be sold. She latched on to the wolves and they saved her. He says that the pack members are his family, so she became his daughter. The boy was surprised. Mel Lalute says that he said that she was his daughter, but the title says that she is an orphan. The boy thought about why this is happening. The wolf calls Clara to him. Her dad with meat in her mouth and asks him what it is. Mel Lalute tells her to stop eating. The girl with a blush on her cheeks continues to chew the tasty meat. The wolf sits on a rock and says that 6 months have passed since she became his daughter. The girl stopped chewing meat and raised her tail. He says that she is half human and half beast. If he had to say whose side she is on, he would say that she should follow human nature. That's what he thought, observing her for half a year. The girl does not understand. The wolf says that she must leave them and stop obeying animal instincts and then learn the nature of man together with this young man. Mel Lalute does not understand why this is so. He apologizes for being so pushy, but what are they talking about? At this point, he sees the wolf's own thoughts, that if he hadn't said she was his daughter, the pack wouldn't have understood. She was causing him too much trouble because she was selfish. He is going to hand it over to this young man. Clara smiles and says that she understands her father. Mel Lalute tries to intervene and says that she should think about it, but the girl was already filled with determination. Clara and the wolf leader hug. The wolf tells her to show her dad how much she has grown. Mel Lalute stands in shock, thinking he can't continue this. He approaches the carriage and tells Sylphie to move faster. He wanted to give the horse a rest, but he has no choice. Suddenly, Clara appears next to him and happily shouts that they are going. Then, the girl starts wagging her tail happily. Mel Lalute wonders why she's even here. He tries to smile, but sweat is trickling down his face. He drops her off and says he will explain it to her now. He tells her that they are being persecuted for being criminals. The girl is surprised and says that Sylphie and Mal are bad people. The young man denies this and says that it is a big misunderstanding. Then he explains to the girl every detail of his current situation. The night was very long. The next day the sun was shining very brightly. The horse that had been pulling the cart all night was now sleeping peacefully. Clara happily wishes everyone a good morning. Mel Lalute and Sylphie haven't even woken up yet and they are suddenly awakened. They don't understand what's going on. It turns out that yesterday's explanation didn't work. The wolves even gave him money. The wolf leader told him not to worry because they steal food when someone throws it away, and the money in this case they kept for situations like this. They don't need it. Sylphie smiles and already started folding her bed linen, then tells them that she will make breakfast. He thanks her. Anyway, what will he do when he realizes that the wolf father will not return? Clara asks what they're having for breakfast, and she stupefies him by saying that they have some bread that they brought this evening and that she's going to make some meat and vegetable soup. Clara is happy with the bread and soup. Mel Lalute looks at the girls and thinks about something. After a while, the food was ready. Clara is given a bowl of delicious soup. Her eyes are full of joy and happiness, and drool begins to drip from her mouth. After trying the soup, the girl shouts that it is delicious and simply incredibly delicious. This is the first time she has been treated too. The girl is very happy and says that the young man and the girl are very kind. Mel Lalute says that they were thinking of going east and then asks if the girl would mind going with them in that case. The girl salutes and agrees with the boy, calling him Lord. Mel Lalute is awkwardly silent, hearing the way the girl addresses him. Clara says that the boy is her master because he looks after her and therefore he is his master. The boy immediately denies this. Mel Lalute says with a satisfied face that he wants her to call him that only when he becomes rich, until the day he hires a maid. The young man pretends to be a very satisfied man. Sylphie asks him in surprise if he really wants to hire a maid, and he replies that he means something else. He smiles awkwardly and says that every man has ever dreamed of this. He thinks it's a cliché. Sylphie confidently says that then she will become one. The girl makes a confident face and clenches her fists. Mel Lalute ponders over the girl's words and then imagines Sylphie in her maid uniform, greeting him at the door and calling him master. He thinks it's very cute. Mel Lalute tells her out loud that no, because she is like family to him. He doesn't think that this image suits the girl. Mel Lalute thinks that he also has no relatives. Sylphie has lost her memories and is far from her family. They will travel and live together. Clara is also an orphan. He tells Clara that she is also a member of the family. The girl looks at them in surprise and a slight blush appears on her cheeks. Sylphie and Mel Lalute look at the girl and smile at her. She starts to rejoice and then asks him if she can call the young man brother. Mel Lalute allows it and thinks that this is also shameful but better than master. The girl also starts to glow with joy. She asks what she should call Sylphie then, sister. Sylphie says that she thinks that she is actually much younger than Clara. Clara grabs the girl's hands and says that then let it be just Sylphie and says that she is counting on her. The girl smiles sweetly and agrees to Clara's proposal. Mel Lalute looks at the girls and thinks that it's very cute and that Sylphie also looks very happy. Suddenly, Clara meows excitedly and then licks the boy's cheek. Clara tells Mal that he has some soup on his cheek. The boy is very surprised by this action of the girl. Silence falls. Sylphie looks surprised and Mel Lalute blushes. Sylphie begins to get angry. He uses the appraisal skill and sees the girl's thoughts who thinks that things are bad. Sylphie at this moment pouted and blushed. Clara then decides to lick Sylphie's cheek as well and then says that she has some soup on her cheek too. Sylphie starts to blush and gets very ticklish. Clara starts to try to hug her, but Sylphie tells her to let go. Clara tells her that the girl is delicious. Mel Lalute laughs at his cute companions while Sylphie asks him to help, but the boy continues to laugh. Clara tells her that Sylphie has soft skin and that Clara's tongue feels very nice. Sylphie says that she will give Clara her bread, but the girl says that it is her bread and she cannot take it. Mel Lalute looks at the girls with a smile. He sees the girls lying on the ground together and thinks of them as his family. Suddenly, he remembers a moment from his childhood where he was running to his mother and his father was watching. Suddenly, he starts to worry. At this time, soldiers and knights arrive at the church. The man rubs his hands and says that he is now the mayor here. He turns to the knight girl who dismounts from her horse and says that it is a great honor for him to see the famous Marion. He offers the girl his hand to help her off her horse, but she says that the priest's killer is a first-class criminal. They will start an investigation right now or someone will have problems. A living Ro tells Marion and the soldiers that when Mel Lalute received his skill, he may have been unhappy with it and decided to kill his father. Marion looks at him suspiciously. An old man whispers something to him. She says she will ask him one last question. Did he know that the murdered father used the shelter to sell participants? Ro starts to fidget and stutter. The question caught him off guard. He says no and that it's impossible. The soldier grabs Ro's head and pushes him face down onto the table. Marion calls this soldier Gazif and says that she will leave Ro to him. He obeys her and the girl herself turns around and leaves. Ro is scared but can't do anything or even get up. She leaves with another old man and approaches her father's corpse. They examine it. The old man says that he has just completed an assessment, so he is indeed the thief Hegel Ois. Marion puts her hand to her chin and says that Hegel was a big fish, to think that this thief was hiding here in this church. He says that if this boy really killed him, it means he is very strong. The man who has now taken over as the current mayor says that is impossible. He is not that kind of guy. Marion asks him what kind of guy he is. He tells her that his name is Mel. He is an orphan. He lived outside the city and worked on neighboring farms. He was very kind. He would not touch a thief without a reason. Marion says that it is clear to her. Gazif comes, asks for forgiveness. Marion asks him if he got any information. He says that, as they thought, this man helped the priest sell people. Marion says that means he dealt with him. Gazef says that they don't know the details, but it seems that this boy discovered it. Marion agrees with him immediately. She says that she really doesn't think he's a simple guy, since he was able to deal with such a formidable opponent so easily. Gazef says that it's just something he's guessing, but he thinks that he gained an amazing skill yesterday. Mariana says after thinking about it that it is quite possible. She smiles and says that it is interesting and the young man has interested her. There is complete confidence in her eyes. Gazef tells her not to be so frivolous. Shouldn't they be focusing on the issue of the forbidden trade? Marion smiles awkwardly and asks him not to look at him like that. If the elven girl is with him, the rescue and investigation must be done together. She turns to the leader, a kindly man, and asks if he has any idea where he might go. He replies that he is not sure, but he has been informed that the wagon was moving quickly east. Gazef says with a serious look that there is a city of fallen heroes on the eastern border. There was one of the traders of prohibited goods there, whom they caught half a year ago. Marion says that the group that was attacked by wolves is ideal. They can get some information from the illegal goods dealers if they interrogate them. Gazef says that if this guy is really heading to that city, but it's not very encouraging. Marion tells him not to worry. She turns to the statue of Mother Earth, clasps her hands, begins to pray and says, "Let her guide them." The leader is surprised and all the girl's companions look as if they are already used to this. Suddenly, Gazef notices that a cat has unexpectedly come up to Marion's leg and meows and rubs against her leg. The men awkwardly ask where it came from and then they try to chase it away. Gazef throws the meat for the cat to follow. The animal happily runs after the treat. Marion's eyes snap open. She runs away saying that they will start an investigation. The girl was very worried and sweat was dripping down her face. Others chase after her, asking her to wait. Clara continues to eat with gusto, gobbling up one meal after another. She enjoys and is very happy with the delicious dishes. Sylphie looks into the bag of provisions and worriedly tells Mal that they are out of food. Mel Lalute turns around and yells at Clara that she has overindulged. The girl immediately flinches. She gets scared and asks them for forgiveness. Mel Lalute changes, breaks out in sweat and also asks for forgiveness, saying that he also ate a lot. They are riding in a cart. Mel Lalute says that the next city is not close. The journey to it will take some time and they can no longer return. He thinks that they need to get food quickly. Clara smiles and tells him that she will get as much food as she has eaten herself. He says that this is very good and suggests that they look for food here. The girl laughs. After a while, Sylphie wonders what Clara is going to do. Clara jumps out of the water and catches a lot of fish. The young man asks where the girl put her clothes. Clara jumps out of the water like a frog and throws the fish she caught at Mel's feet. The girl answered the boy's question that it was very difficult for her to swim in clothes. Mel Lalute tells her that there is a man next to her and he does not think that she should show so much, certainly at her age. He himself is very embarrassed and closes his eyes. She doesn't understand what the young man means and says that they are a family. He shouts that she can't do that, even if they are a family. She immediately puts on her clothes and then her eyes turn into stars and she bares her claws. The girl then jumps into the bushes with agility and screams. Sylphie and Mal watch calmly what the girl is doing, but they still don't understand what is happening. Then Mal appears from the bushes. She holds a rabbit she just caught in her mouth. She throws the catch right at Mal and Sylphie's feet. Sylphie is frightened at the sight of this rabbit. Mel remembers that the girl used her hunting skill, which she already has at rank A. He thinks that the girl is only 13 years old and she is already such a clever hunter. At this time, the girl smiles and says that there is a lot of meat in this rabbit. Mel Lalute had heard of people being born with unique skills before, but he never thought Clara would have one. Sylphie, meanwhile, trembled with fear and took the boy's hands. The girl does not understand why the young man is looking at her like that. Clara asks him if she really has a unique skill. He answers that yes, it seems so. Clara asks how the boy got her skills since even she doesn't know about it. Sylphie continues to tremble and the boy tries to say something. Mel Lalute says that he just guessed and wonders if he can trust her with the hunt anyway, and she confidently replies that of course she can. Mel Lalute calls out to Sylphie. The girl flinches slightly, then is surprised that Mal called her. The young man suggests to the girl, looking at the rabbit, to go and find some plants. After some time, they walk through the forest and look for food. Sylphie picks a mushroom and asks the young man if it is edible. He says that it is an excellent mushroom. Mel Lalute sees the mushroom's characteristics, which state that they will continue to laugh no matter what. He tells Sylphie that it looks like she will laugh endlessly if she eats this. Sylphie says she understands, but this mushroom looks very tasty. Mel Lalute says it might be delicious if she cooks it. Then Sylphie hands him something else and asks him what about this. Mel Lalute says that it is not a mushroom. The girl is very surprised. He looks at the plant and says that it is not poisonous, so they can eat this unknown plant, but it is very bitter. The girl starts to tremble all over from this plant and continues to hand the plant to the boy. She says she doesn't think they'll eat anything bitter. Mel Lalute says they're very nutritious. They'll take as many plants as they can. Sylphie starts to get indignant and capricious. Later, when it was already getting late, they all cook soup. Mel Lalute stays and is surprised by the taste and then says that this soup is not bitter. At this time, Sylphie says with tears in her eyes that if you try it, it will taste bitter. She continues to tremble, but tears are still visible in her eyes. Sylphie is the type who does not like bitter food, and at this time, Lara is wolfing down her food no matter what. Mel Lalute says that plants are probably good for the skin. The girl is surprised and asks the boy again if these plants are really good for the skin. He tells her, smiling, that she is already beautiful, but he would like her to continue eating them. He thinks to himself that he is like her father. The girl blushed, and then she said that if the young man thought so, the girl would eat these vegetables. The girl began awkwardly sorting through her plate and choosing vegetables. Then the girl began to instantly gobble up everything that was on her plate. She feels this bitterness and begins to shake from all this, but still continues to gobble up the vegetables. Clara asks if they are going to move east again tomorrow, and they answer that they are. She eats meat and fish with relish, which are interestingly strung on rods. Mel Lalute sighs, shrugs, and says that they don't have enough camping gear. They still need a pot, dishes, a knife, and clothes, and a blanket for Sylpha and Clara. Sylphie is surprised and asks him if he wants to go shopping in the city, to which Mal replies that they should come across a city soon. Clara chews on a chicken leg and says that there is a large city on the eastern border, then asks if it will suit them. Mel Lalute asks if she knows where it is. She tells that she lived in the ruins on the outskirts, and that's where she was caught by the illegal goods traders. Mel Lalute is surprised and says that if she knows the city, maybe she can take them there. She replies that she has never been to the main street and has only traveled through the dark alleys. Mel Lalute holds his chin and begins to think. Sylphie asks him if something is wrong. He says that he just thought that if Clara knew these places, then perhaps it would be better for them to part there. He says this with sadness. Suddenly, Clara becomes embarrassed and starts screaming that she doesn't want to leave. She doesn't like this plan at all because she really wants to be with her new family. The girl at this time clenches her fists in anxiety. She calms down, then says more quietly that she doesn't have many good memories of this place. There is sadness on her face. She says that she was persecuted simply for being a Rajar. In fact, she only lived in this city because she had nowhere else to go. Mel and Sylphie look at the girl with sadness. She continues, embarrassed, saying that she also likes it all very much. Her cheeks flush. She looks at the burning fire and says that she really enjoys rocking in the wagon, hunting and cooking, eating food together next to a warm fire. She smiles and says that she really likes being one family with her brother and Sylphie, so she is really happy now. Mel Lalute is surprised by the girl's words and then smiles and says to himself that everything is true, they really are a family. In fact, the boy had no intention of telling anyone about the appraisal skill except Sylphie, but after thinking about it, he decides to tell Clara about it as well. He immerses the girl in the story of his skill and everything that happened after receiving it. He says that this is why no one should know about his X-rank appraisal skill, so he asks the girl to try not to tell anyone about it. Clara, through crunching, agrees to keep the secret and says that this is the word of the Rajar. After a while, Clara falls asleep, covered with a blanket. She snores very sweetly. At this time, Mal is throwing firewood on the fire so that it will keep them warm for as long as possible during the night. Suddenly, Sylphie, who is sitting next to him, speaks to him. She asks him what he will do after they reach her homeland. He begins to think. At this time, the brushwood quietly crackled because of the heat of the flames. He says that he hasn't thought about it and then turns to Sylphie, smiles, and tells her that if she doesn't get tired of him, she can stay in her hometown. The girl is very surprised by the young man's words. She blushes and asks if everything will be okay in that case, since he will then be far from his home. The young man gives a positive answer, then says that he always wanted to leave there, and even if he wanted to go back, he doubts he could continue living the way he did before. He looks at the fire, smiles, and says that he has happy memories of this place. All the time he spent with Sylphie in general, he doesn't really care where he is as long as he can stay with her. He confesses that he wants him and Sylphie to be a family. The girl is very surprised by the boy's words and freezes for a moment. Then she begins to reach out to the boy and asks in surprise that he is really going to propose to her. Mel immediately blushes and screams in panic that no, that's not what he meant at all. It's too early for him to think about that. He puts his hands forward and starts waving them in such a way as to show even more his innocence and that he expressed himself incorrectly. The young man says that the girl is also none other than a princess, so her parents may be against it. At this time, Clara continues to snore. Sylphie gives a positive answer and blushes too. Then she puts her head on his shoulder and says that she is not ready yet either. She is very embarrassed. However, the girl opens her eyes and says that when Mel told her that he wanted them to be a family, the girl was truly happy. She says that if Mel Lalute wants them to be a family, then she wants the same. He thinks that's all she needs to know. He can't say more. His parents passed away long ago, but he's sure Sylphie has someone who keeps her going. He strokes her head and says he is sure her memory will return. The girl begins to fall asleep on the young man's shoulder. She then agrees with Mal's words and begins to slowly fall asleep. Mel Lalute gently covers her with a blanket. He thinks that if he can master his skill of evaluation, he might be able to bring back her memory. He smiles and thinks that he has a new goal. At the moment, he still only has fragmentary information about the first queen, which means he needs to improve his assessment skill to the limit. Many windows with information appear in front of the young man, which he looks through while everyone is sleeping. The next day, Mel Lalute, Clara, and Sylphie arrived in a large city that was full of city life. The heroes came to a shopping street where many people were walking. Mel Lalute puts on a cloak so that no one will recognize him and says that the carriage will be taken care of. He suggests going shopping. Clara is especially happy. Sylphie also puts on a cloak so that no one will recognize her. He says that Clara will be fine, but that they might be looking for him and Sylphie, so he asks Sylphie not to take off her hood. The girl pulls her hood tighter and tells the boy that she understands him. After a while at the meat stall, Clara shouts and tells her to look there, how much meat is there. Mel Lalute tells her that they will get dried meat a little later. The girl's eyes shine, and then she starts wagging her tail. He pulls her away and asks her not to forget that they came for clothes, dishes, and essentials. He suggests that she go. Suddenly she sees something else. Her pupils dilate. They see a fountain. Clara asks what it is. Water is pouring out of that thing. Mel Lalute says it's called a fountain, which draws water from a river that flows nearby. She screams that she has never been here before, so she sees it for the first time. She screams that it is amazing. The girl wants to splash in this fountain, then they notice something. The girl turns to the boy and asks what it is. They come to some sword. Mel Lalute bends down and reads the inscription on the monument, that the city is also known as the City of the Hero, the one who defeated the evil dragon. In this place he gave up his spirit, fulfilling his duty and bringing peace to the world. But before that, the hero gathered his last strength and pierced the boulder with his sword, saying that the sword is sealed with magic until the next hero appears. Sylphie is surprised. Mel Lalute continues to read that, with the exception of the hero's sword, everything else is surrounded by myths and mysteries. He looks up and wonders if this means no one has been able to evaluate him, wondering if he is protected by a mysterious power if other evaluators couldn't do it, but he can. Finally, the young man managed to read. He sees the characteristics of the sword. He succeeded. This is indeed the hero's sword. It costs 500 million units. All the characteristics are at the highest level, except for the magic attack. The young man is surprised. It is also the sword used by the hero of the land Drago. The magical power of defeated opponents can be used as a source of energy. The young man is surprised by this description. Carla does not understand what this thing in the stone is. Its additional effects include never breaking, can give the user a state of invincibility for 15 seconds, hides the sword's characteristics from anyone other than the owner, and can also disguise the owner's status at will. Mel Lalute says that it can even change the owner's status, so it's convenient. Since it's sealed, it can't be used to break the seals. You need the same or higher status than the hero. Mel Lalute says that it is impossible, probably. Suddenly, Carla interrupts him and says that there is some kind of sign here too. The young man approaches a small sign. He reads that if he can, he should take it with him without any embarrassment. The young man does not understand why it is written like that. Clara is eager to take it. The young man awkwardly says that it is easy for her to say. Then he turns his attention to Sylphie and asks what is wrong with her and is she really in pain. Sylphie suddenly starts crying and is surprised that the boy called her. Clara starts to panic and asks if the girl is okay. Sylphie doesn't understand why tears are flowing from her eyes. Mal watches what is happening. The boy tries to say something and asks the girl to listen, but she says that she probably got something in her eye. Clara asks if her eye hurts, but Sylphie says that it doesn't hurt. The boy looks and sees that Sylphie has the status emotional excitement. It seems that, in fact, everything is fine with the body. Apparently, Sylphie herself does not understand the reason for these tears. The young man asked her not to frighten them like that. If the young man had read deeper, he might have found out what was going on. Well, at least she had no health problems. He sighed with relief. The girl smiles and apologizes for making everyone worry. She then suggests that they all go shopping. Clara happily raises her hands and enthusiastically agrees. Sylphie and Mayer smile at the girl's reaction. Mel Lalute sees Sylphie and says it's cute. She asks him if he really thinks so in a dress. Mel Lalute thinks to himself that anything looks good on a beauty. Lara asks him what she looks like. He sees her and says that she is very charming. He thinks to himself that, however, maybe she looks a little like a boy with such short hair. Mel Lalute looks at her, becomes embarrassed and smiles awkwardly, then says that perhaps she should get a jacket one size bigger. Carla agrees with the young man's suggestion. Finally, they are done shopping. Clara is carrying a huge load of clothes on her back. Mel Lalute asks her if he should take some and help the girl, but she does not understand what the young man means. She seriously says that everything is fine and there is no need because she is stronger than her brother, so everything is fine. Later, they enjoy the food at the stall. The girls think that the meat is so soft and tasty. Mel Lalute also eats with the thought that with the skill of evaluation he can easily choose the best meat, and there is no risk that at an inflated price they will palm off a hack job. He thinks how convenient this evaluation is. His cheeks are stuffed with food, but suddenly the young man hears strange voices asking if that tiger girl is Clara by any chance. The young man turns to the voices and sees two men. These are two men looking at them. Clara is surprised and angrily points her finger at them and screams that it is they, the villains, who sold her to the dealer in illegal goods. The2 scream that she is talking nonsense, that she has gone completely mad. Mel Lalute is worried that people are gathering around him. At this rate, it will be revealed that he is wanted. The situation is getting very tense and they might even be detained for such a mess. He decides to use the assessment and asks these men, the Otto brothers, where they put the golden statue of the goddess of Mother Earth, which was stolen from the house of Regensen. The young man is very angry and tries to accuse the men of many crimes. One screams how he knew, the other says no one was supposed to know. They are indeed brothers. One is called Motto, the other Rado. Their titles are similar and the men are scoundrels, and they are the second and third brothers of the Otto Trinity. People start saying that they are a trio of scoundrel brothers, only the eldest is not visible. The other says that they knew it, they immediately thought of them. They were called thieves and the men were seriously scared. People started gathering around them. The two of them start running away, Mel Lalute chasing after them, thinking that they should also hide in this chaos, but he can't just let go of the people who treated Clara so badly. The brothers run away, pushing people and shouting at others to go away, to make way, to get out of the way, but suddenly a tall man stops them. One of the brothers crashes into another man. They ask him what he wants, the other demands that he get out of the way. The men start swearing and calling the man they meet names. At this time, the man smiles and rubs his chin. Mel Lalute stops and watches them carefully. The stranger apologizes and says that this is his job. He smirks and his gaze seems to describe the men from top to bottom and looks very arrogant, showing his superiority. Suddenly, he grabs both of them by the head and presses down. At this time, the man continues to smile peacefully. The young man is very surprised that he saw the incredible strength of an unknown man who was able to easily neutralize two. Mel Lalute remains where he is, thinking about what he said so abruptly. He silently apologizes for being so weak. He smiles awkwardly and a drop of sweat runs down his face. He tells Clara that then as a reward for her efforts she can buy herself some meat. The girl's eyes light up and she clenches her hands into fists. The girl thanks the young man, and after a while she receives a beautiful and hot square-shaped piece of meat. The stranger lifts the criminals. They flounder in his arms. They scream that it hurts, that their heads are about to split. They ask to let them go. At this time, you can notice that the man is not only strong, but also very tall. The man with horns on his forehead tells them to listen and asks if they really stole the golden statue of the goddess of Mother Earth from the Regins' house. The men at this point start screaming in pain, but the man continues to smile. They already confess and shout that it was them, so he asks to let go. Tears are pouring from their eyes because the man is squeezing their heads very painfully. The stranger asks where this statue is now. They answer that it is buried in a shelter under the floor. The stranger says that it is clear to him and he understood them. Mel listens very tensely to the men. Suddenly the man pushes the two heads together. He says that he understood them. At this time, Mel Lalute tries to understand who this stranger is. His name is Musashi Kaido and his status amazes him. Musashi Kaido has a unique skill, the art of two swords. This ability helps him handle two swords at the highest level. He also has superhuman strength, which passively increases physical strength, and anti-magic power, which reduces damage from magical attacks. Among the limited skills, one can highlight the Gembu Shell, which allows the body to harden when activated. In addition, he also has the agility of a mountain deer, after activating which the speed of the next step is tripled. He understands that he has as many as 3 unique skills, which, moreover, combine well with limited skills. In front of him now was a first-class swordsman who specialized in fighting without the use of magic. To top it off, he also has a bounty hunter tattoo. It looks like he hasn't figured out who he is yet, but it will be very problematic if he does. The swordsman himself wonders how Mel Lalute guessed that these two were the criminals, and whether he will have to share the reward with him. He understands that he needs to get out of here immediately. Musashi says that he was lucky to run into the criminals so easily. Kaido says that since he found them, he offers to split the reward in half. He asks if he agrees. Mel Lalute says awkwardly that there is no need to share with him. Kaido says happily that it is somehow awkward even, although inside he wonders why this is. Although what difference does it make, he decides to agree until he changes his mind. He says that he will then go and hand the scoundrels over to the guards and return the stolen goods. Mel Lalute awkwardly asks him about exactly this. He smiles awkwardly and breaks out in a sweat. Suddenly, Mel Lalute senses something. Suddenly, he apologizes and says he'll borrow Kaido's sword for a minute. He grabs his sword and turns around, then deflects an attack that was coming straight at him. This was an arrow shot by the eldest brother of the Otto brothers. He can hide. He is also a scoundrel and the eldest brother of the Otto brothers. He has a D-rank stealth skill. The young man uses his speed and then lunges forward and knocks the crossbow out of the villain's hands. The man was very confused when he saw this. The young man cuts the crossbow with his sword, then jumps on the man and pins him to the ground with his feet. The young man swings his sword, but the man asks him to wait for him. He is covered in sweat from the fact that the young man might even kill him. Suddenly, the young man hits the man's head with the hilt of his katana and he loses consciousness. At this time, Kaido watches what is happening. Someone starts clapping for Mel. The boy flinches in surprise. He prepares for the worst, but that person turns out to be Kaido. The boy says that Mel has incredibly fast movements and the guy pleasantly surprised him. He approaches the young man and says that he believes that he just moved using a skill similar to his. More precisely, a skill called Mountain Deer Agility, and then he used it. The young man evaluates him and says that his plan is good. Then he adds with a smile, does the young man know that for a samurai, a weapon is a part of him? You could say that a weapon is an extension of the body and taking it without asking is not very good. Mel Lalute holds out his sword in a panic and begs for forgiveness, realizing he is right. The samurai says he is lucky because he does not bother with such things, and besides, it is a common nameless blade, although if he had broken it, he would have made him pay for the damages. However, he handled the katana quite well. He asks him who taught him this. He awkwardly begins to think of an answer. He can't say that he copied his skill. The young man hesitated. The samurai thinks and scratches his chin and then says that this means that the young man has some secret. Unexpectedly, he says that the young man can keep this katanka for himself. Mel is surprised by this and cannot understand anything. The man says he has other katanas in reserve. He asks if he is sure. He says he has already made a good profit thanks to it. If he does not need it, then let him sell it. Mel Lalute analyzes the sword and realizes that it is quite expensive. The samurai leaves, waving his hand that he will take care of business, walking over to his brothers. Mel Lalute bows and thanks him for the katana. After some time, Mel Lalute and Sylphie go to the carriage but see Marion and Gosif there. Mal realizes that people have gathered in front of their carriage. At this time, the girl asks her comrades if they are sure about this. The old man tells Marion that he is sure that the cart belongs to that very church. Mel Lalute wonders if the old man in the hood is Brank's appraiser. The young man stands behind the wall and watches the people carefully. Gosif folded his arms and said that it meant there was no doubt that the boy named Mel Lalute was in this city. Mel Lalute was nervous, not knowing what to do now. At that time, Clara was with the little frog. The young man thinks that since there is an appraiser among the people, then maybe they will believe him if he explains it properly. He changes his mind. Even if they do believe him, his skill rank is X. With such a rank, in the worst case, they will grab him and immediately put him on the table for experiments. He understands that this cannot be allowed to happen because he promised to deliver Sylphie to her homeland. At this time, the samurai ties up the brothers and hums a cheerful melody. Suddenly, a girl comes up to him and asks him, calling him uncle, what he is doing here in such a good mood. He calls her a pest, then addresses her by her first name, Lisa, and asks her not to call him uncle because he hasn't yet crossed the 30-year mark. Lisa says that he is still 10 years older than her, so how can he not be uncle? The girl then asks him who the Eli people are, pointing to Otto's brothers. He replies that they are criminals who stole the golden statue of the goddess of Mother Earth. She is indignant that he has already managed to catch the targets of the order he just took. The samurai smiles and says that it wasn't really him, it was a human boy who did it. He said that he didn't need a share and gave him the entire reward. She says that there are strange people in the world. The samurai says to himself that he was a mysterious guy. To himself, he thinks that he handled the katana quite confidently, even more, although he did not have time to show much. But his movements were exactly like in the style of two Oni swords. He thinks, remembering Mel's fight, why the most ordinary human child knew a sword technique created exclusively for the Oni. He ponders and wonders if Mel is the owner of the heavenly eyes. His eyes widen and he is very surprised because the heavenly eyes are a unique skill that, according to legend, the legendary hero Ars Drago possessed. Him just one glance to deeply understand a wide variety of arts, including swordsmanship. It only took him a couple of days to master complex and high-level techniques, while ordinary people spent decades on it. If that young man really is the owner of the heavenly eyes, then the man may have screwed up. He regrets that if this is the case, then it was necessary to at least fight with him a little. Lisa is frightened by his reaction and asks what is happening to him. The samurai calms down and says that, having such skills, he walked empty-handed. He considers the young man to be a truly mystical guy. Lisa calls him uncle again and asks why he started grumbling. He tells her not to pay attention. He asks her to tell him how long she will continue to follow him. She answers that she already said that until she finds a person. Lisa says that traveling requires a lot of money, so she finds him a job and then gets her percentage for it. The samurai says that the work of a bounty hunter comes with a lot of hatred from all sorts of scoundrels. He wouldn't particularly recommend continuing to follow him, but she says that it's safest to be with the guy so there are no problems at all. The girl adds that the man himself said that he was not traveling for headhunting. Isn't that right? He replies that he is. She asks him if it is true that he wants to fight the only heavenly eye of this kingdom. The man smiles and says peacefully that it is. The eye of the sky means genius. The man has become so strong solely through hard work, and now he wants to fight the genius and defeat him with his own strength. Lisa giggles and says that she has good news for him. The girl smiles sarcastically and talks about the murder of a priest, kidnapping, and theft. He is surprised and says that this is a first-degree crime. The girl says that it is true, and they say that the culprit is currently hiding in this city. The samurai says that he probably won't participate this time. There is enough money for now. Lisa giggles and says that here's a surprise for him. On the trail of this criminal, some order of knights has arrived in the city. She asks what he thinks, which one exactly, and who has arrived. He guesses and then is surprised and immediately thinks of the deputy captain of the Order of the Red Phoenix, Marion Verdemian. Lisa smiles and tells him he guessed right, the genius lady swordswoman Heavenly Eye. The samurai shakes his chin, wondering if they came to this city chasing that priest killer. Lisa smiles and tells him that if he catches the criminal first, then perhaps as a reward the girl will agree to a duel with him. The samurai says that in the worst case he will fall on his face in supplication. She refuses. After that, those around her might think that she is afraid of fighting him, and her pride, which is usually overly inflated in swordsmen, will not allow her to do this, and he does not mind falling to his knees. The samurai smiles and tells Lisa that this is great. He suggests that they catch the criminal then. The girl smiles back and says that she is glad that the man agreed to her proposal. Lisa says that as far as she knows, the criminal also kidnapped an elf girl, and maybe that girl is the one she is looking for. The samurai thinks about it and remembers Sylphie next to Clara and Mel. He asks her if there is any more information about the criminal. She says that it is a 15-year-old boy named Mel Lalute. As far as she understands, he is a very ordinary teenager. The samurai continues to think about a 15-year-old boy and an ordinary teenager at that. Is such a person really capable of somehow killing a priest? This is very unusual. He thinks that this is a very unusual act for an ordinary child. He thinks that the boy looks 15 years old and next to him is an elf girl. He is still thinking and then he remembers Mel and suggests that perhaps this is the same kid he met not long ago. Lisa is surprised and does not understand what the man is talking about. At the cart around the corner, Mal, Sylphie, and Clara are still watching. He wonders how long they'll be standing there. If at least one moves away and there are fewer of them, maybe they'll be able to somehow break through to the cart. Gazif suggests splitting into two groups. Marion says it's a good idea. Clara suddenly steps forward and asks her brother what these people want from their carriage. Mal Lalute is shocked, Marion even more so. The girl turns around and sees the boy with Sylphie around the corner, as well as Clara, who has come out into the open. Marion is frightened because she sees cat ears. At this time, Gosif asks if the young man is Mal Lalute. He backs away and Gosif says he has a couple of questions. Mal Lalute yells that it's creepy, so he decides to run away. He asks to wait, but in the background Marion is trembling and tells him that she will go after them herself. Gosif tells her that there was a beastman there with them and he can't let them investigate alone. She is still shaking and says that she is the fastest and most agile. She tells him to wait here and she tells the old man to go and inform the other members who are checking the city and other taverns. He bows and says that he will do as she orders. She remembers Clara and confidently says that she will not retreat as a valiant heir to the hero's will. Despite her confidence and determination, beads of sweat appear on the girl's face. Sylphie asks Mal to wait and what he is doing. He picks her up, apologizes, and says they don't have much time. The girl says that's not what she means at all. She blushes and says that he is running with her in his arms and then asks if it is hard for him. He says that it is okay because he read Clara's abilities, so the girl in his arms feels very light. He muses that they do have a red knight on their tail, Marion Verdemian, a famous swordswoman. Judging by her appearance and behavior, she seems to be a good person. Her unique skill is the same as the hero Ars Drago, the Heavenly Eyes. This allows her to understand the essence of the technique at first glance, gain knowledge and experience, and choose the most optimal training method. It also helps to instantly process information and predict the target's movements. A super rare unique skill with 3 effects, it seems to him, or it strongly resembles his evaluation skill. The young man sweats. Gazis joined in. Things would get really bad. He keeps running with the thought that he needs to hurry. Clara runs after them, skipping. Marion starts approaching them and then she calls out to them and asks them to wait. Mal Lalute wonders if she has already caught up, if it is too fast, if even Clara's acceleration hasn't helped. He looks at the fountain and thinks that all that remains is to cross the square with the fountain, go out onto the next street and leave the city. He will have to abandon the cart. Marion keeps running after them, asks them to wait again, and then jumps with all her might. She jumps over them, lands in front of them so that the ground cracks and sternly asks who she told. Mel Lalute and Sylphie are shaking in fear. He decides to step back and calls her a monster. The girl stands up, then puffs out her cheeks and embarrassingly says that it is very rude. Mel Lalute is surprised and awkwardly apologizes when he sees Marion pouting. He doesn't understand why this girl is acting so strangely. She tells him that she just wants to talk to him and asks him to listen. Herself as the vice captain of the Red Phoenix Knights, Marion Verdemian, she asks them to calm down and adds that she is not going to arrest them. Mel Lalute thinks to himself that he understands that she really seems like a good person, but will she believe his version of events if she sees his skills? She might change her mind drastically. Mel Lalute starts by saying that he is very sorry, then Clara suddenly comes out between them and asks if they have finished playing. Marion suddenly starts crying and throws herself screaming into Mel's arms. Everyone present suddenly blushed and only Clara did not understand what was happening and what she had done wrong. Mel doesn't understand what's going on and what the girl is doing. He says everything is fine and asks the girl to calm down. Marion suddenly turns pale and gets goosebumps all over. Sylphie at this point starts to get angry and pout her lips and cheeks, while Clara continues to stand there in bewilderment. Mel Lalute reads Marion's characteristics and sees that the girl is 17 years old and is very afraid of cats, so she tries not to approach them directly. At this point, the girl looks at Mal and asks him to help her. Marion apologizes and says that it seems that she has lost control again. Mel Lalute says that everything is fine, but to himself he thinks that Clara is not a cat but a tiger, or rather a tiger person, and what is so scary about her. Mel Lalute thinks that this is probably her weak point. He asks her if she wanted to talk about the incident that happened at the church. She says yes. He ends up saying that he went to church that day for a blessing ceremony. He explains what happened that day, hiding the truth about his skill and Sylphie's identity. Marion smiles and says that now she understands, and it seems that he had a hard time. She asks him if he was scared, wasn't he, but now everything is fine. Mel Lalute thinks to himself that she is definitely a good person, as expected from someone who can become a heroine. Then he changes the word to a goddess. The girl smiles sweetly at the boy in response, and he seems to be dreaming of something beautiful. Marion digresses and says that she will still have to draw up a report and hold an official hearing, but for now she suggests that he return to the hotel. Mel Lalute thinks to himself that this was to be expected. He says that he is very sorry, but he will be in trouble if anyone finds out about his unique skill. The girl is surprised by what she hears. She turns around and asks what he's talking about, then someone comes and says that he found them. He says who would have thought that he was the priest's killer. Mal and Marion turn around together and they see the bounty hunter, Musashi Kaido. He smiles and says that looks can be deceiving. He says he's very sorry, but he's going to have to be taken into custody. He won't say don't resist, so he can resist as much as he wants. He then takes out his 2 katanas, getting ready to fight. Then Marion comes out, shields Mel and his group with herself and asks them to wait. She doesn't know where he got this information from, but Mel is a victim, so she is going to take him with her. Kaido asks if she really wants to stop him. He says that he doesn't care who she is, but if she is on the side of a criminal, then she is a criminal too. Mel Lalute reads his thoughts that he doesn't care about killing the priest. He wants to fight the Heavenly Eyes. He has been waiting for this for a long time. Mel Lalute wonders if his goal is really Marion. Marion shouts at him that it's a misunderstanding, but he attacks her with the words that he didn't ask that. They start fighting. Mel Lalute wonders what to do because this is his chance to escape. Musashi seems to want to fight Marion. Marion now knows the truth. He won't be prosecuted as a criminal because in the end he was just scared of Musashi's attack, and that's why he ran away. Right, that's right. Marion recognizes this technique and asks him if he is a wandering bounty hunter, master of the 2 swords Kaido. He says that she can call him that. At this time, they hold their blades in tension. He smiles and then attacks and says that although he doesn't like it very much, Marion at this time thinks that this is a mistake. He is not a criminal, this boy is just a suspect, so she must protect him. She thinks that this is bad, it is necessary to end it, but then Kaido uses the agility of a mountain deer. Marion sees this and understands that the 2-sword style is convenient for breakthrough attacks. She prepared to defend against the attacks. Kaido smirks and then attacks her, saying that she underestimates the masters of 2 swords and will pay for it. The girl is seriously scared by both Kaido's face and words. He takes out another sword and says that he will show her the power of the two-sword Kaido style. He throws the sword right at her. The girl is scared by this attack because she may not have time to block it. In an instant, Marion notices another sword flying at her. She bends back, thereby dodging the sword flying at her. The girl thinks that she can dodge one sword and block the other. Then she looks at Kaido's scabbard and sees another sword there. She realizes that he has two swords in his hands and one in his bosom. The situation is really tense. Suddenly, Mal appears right in front of them, the young man with confidence. He parries Kaido's blow with the sword he gave him. Surprised, Marion blushes. Mel Lalute calls Kaido uncle and tells him that if he wants to fight so badly, how about competing with him? Mal is very serious. The samurai walks away from them. Mariana stands in a stupor and a slight blush can be seen on her cheeks. The girl does not understand what is happening and why Mel is protecting her. Mel Lalute tells him that he actually understands everything. He just wants to fight the owner of the Heavenly Eyes. The young man is very angry and this emotion can be seen on his face. The man looks at the situation tensely, rubbing his chin, then thinks and says that Mel Lalute just used Mountain Deer Stride. He wouldn't have had time to study it, and he knows his intentions. He smiles and says that he understands, so Mel Lalute is the owner of the Heavenly Eyes. Hence it turns out that the young man simply read the man. Marion begins to understand that the boy's skill is the Heavenly Eyes. She does not believe it and thinks that this cannot be. Mel Lalute turns around and tells her that he will fight alone, so he asks her not to interfere. However, Marion, although she says that she will not interfere, she wants to tell the boy something, but she is interrupted by the samurai. The samurai believes that he can also use the two-sword style. Unlike him, he only has one sword. He thinks to himself, did he really decide to fight alone? Is he really that stupid? Kaido attacks him and shouts what he will do now. As Musashi said, Mel Lalute read his dual swordsmanship. Thanks to this, he can predict his movements and prevent the attack in time. After a few attacks, Mel Lalute looks at his sword and thinks that this is great and this distance between them is enough to reach the sword that Marion dodged. He runs to the sword that is lying on the ground and tries to reach it. Suddenly, the free sword starts to become electrified. Mel Lalute wonders if this is a magic bullet skill. He watches as the sword starts to spin on the ground and moves in an unknown direction. The sword flies towards its owner on its own. The samurai stops the blade with his boot. Mel Lalute asks him if he has an assistant. Kaido says that he didn't ask for help, so it's her selfish wish since he also wanted a one-on-one battle. He asks if it's true that he's a little angry. At this point, Lisa is sitting in the bushes, holding her gun at the ready. Samurai smiles again and says that okay, what happened is what happened and there's nothing to be done about it. He probably decides to break off the fight because his companion rushed in to help. Suddenly, the man realizes something and then tells the boy that he just used Mountain Deer Step, but this skill has a 15-minute interval, meaning that this skill can only be used once every 15 minutes. He is very surprised. Mel Lalute flies with this skill and shouts that it is not over yet. The samurai is surprised that the youth used this skill again, that is, the gate of the mountain deer, but it has not been very long. He says that Mel rushes forward knowing what's coming, so he has fun. Mel Lalute is thinking at this time that, like Marion, it is difficult to resist this man with only a sword. The young man is full of determination. Mel Lalute looks at the girls behind him, that is, Marion, Sylphie, and Clara. He understands that there is still one sword left. If this cannot be avoided, then he will go to meet it. He uses both the Mountain Deer's Step and Genbu's Carapace and flies towards the samurai with a fist. The boy's face shows that this is a very powerful attack that uses an incredible amount of physical strength. The man is surprised that Mal's fist instantly appears in front of his face. Kaido defends himself with his sword, but the blade of the sword cracks and breaks from Mal's fist. Mel starts to strike one blow after another. The man, covering his face with his hands, tries to defend himself. He thinks that the Genbu shell can be used up to twice a day without a break. The duration of this skill is only 10 seconds, but the boy has been hitting Kaido's face with this ability for a long time now, and 10 seconds have long passed. Kaido produces multiple strikes. Mel Lalute realizes that he used this skill for the second time, but Musashi will not be able to use it anymore today. He continues to strike one after another. After that, he attacks 2 Yuzashi with his body, strengthened by the gate of a mountain deer and the shell of a genbu. If you read and copy the enemy's skills, you can use them without restrictions. The man falls to the ground. The hero thinks that he just reads these skills over and over again and continues to attack should he wait 10 seconds. He realizes that his defense is gone. He finally hits him with his fist with the phrase that it's all over. The hero deals a crushing blow to the enemy. Musashi falls to the ground, breathing heavily. Mel Lalute feels like his head is splitting. It seems like he copied too much in a short time. There is silence. Marion realizes that Mel Lalute is so strong. She wonders who he is. Mel Lalute reads Kaido's feelings. He is shaking. He is in pain. He realized that his arm is broken. If he moves carefully, it will also hurt. He slowly crawls away, thinking that he will be able to escape. Mel Lalute wonders if he's really going to leave now. He won't let him go, not the one who attacks people on a whim. Suddenly, Marion sees something and shouts at Mel to be careful. She pushes him and is about to get hit herself. Mel himself understands this. He uses the gate of a mountain deer. He covers Marion back with his body using his genbu shell. The heroes are twisted. The girl screams in horror and grabs her savior. Sylphie and Clara look in surprise. After taking a closer look, Sylphie begins to be indignant. The girl is experiencing pleasure. Marion opens her eyes and doesn't understand what is so soft. Opening their eyes, they both realize that they are lying on top of each other, face to face. They pull away in surprise. Sylphie, all red, starts screaming in anger. Clara remains behind in bewilderment. Mel Lalute begins to think that this is an incredibly strange situation because he accidentally fell on Marion and their lips touched. The girl lies and is all embarrassed by what happened earlier. The girl tries to say something and the young man at that moment gets scared and asks her what she wanted to ask. Marion, with her eyes closed, asks if he can get off her. He raises his hands in panic and asks for forgiveness and then says that he must be heavy. Then Clara suddenly appears and calls the young man brother. Mel himself is frightened by her sudden appearance. She asks if he really was the one licking that little sister. Clara's eyes were just shining at that moment and 2 cute fangs were visible in her mouth. Mel starts to get very embarrassed that Clara caught them like that and hesitantly says that no, and that she misunderstood it all. Clara says that this sister smells so delicious, not worse than Sylphie, so she wants to try it too. Clara sticks out her little tongue and is about to lick the girl. She looks at Marion and realizes that something is wrong. Mel Lalute sees a warning that she should not let cats near her, not let her touch them directly. Clara says that Sister Marion has lost consciousness. The girl was shaking with terror at that moment. Mel Lalute realizes that she was kissed by a cat, and judging by the assessment, it is not very good. Suddenly, he sees something else. The hero tells Clara to step back, and they both step back, jumping a large distance away. Clara tries to understand what happened. Then they see Marion slowly and silently rise from her seat. Mel realized that something was wrong and the situation was getting out of control. Mariana stands up abruptly. His gaze has changed, and the young man sees that her combat abilities are greatly improved in exchange for sanity. When activating a rank E skill, one completely loses one's sanity, which is a disadvantage. Once activated, the skill cannot be cancelled at will, which is also a disadvantage. Mariana begins to scream furiously, like a wild animal. Clara and Mel Lalute are frightened, and the young man realizes that this is not a woman's scream at all. At that moment, Clara lowered her ears and began to scream in fear as well. Marion loses control of herself completely and then takes out her sword and starts attacking Mal. Mal deftly dodges, so Marion misses. However, her sword hits the ground and gouges the stone surface. The young man shouted at Clara to leave immediately, otherwise she will get hurt. Looking at the attacking girl, he realizes that Marion has gone completely mad. He wonders if this could really happen because of one kiss. At this time, the girl realizes that she missed with her attack. At this time, Clara fell to the ground because she lost her balance. Mel Lalute sees Marion's thoughts. She wants to kill the cat. He understands that this is very bad. He shouts at Clara to just run away, but she shouts that this is very scary. Mel Lalute picks up a pebble and throws it at Marion, hitting her right in the head. The girl turns around in anger, and Mel Lalute shouts at her that he is here. At that moment, Clara runs away from the battlefield with tears in her eyes. Marion's motives again and sees that she intends to kill the shooter and remove the obstacle. Mel thinks that at least he helped Clara escape from here. However, he wonders what he should do with Marion now, since talking to her is clearly useless. If he tries to copy the girl's skill, their powers will be equal, but then he will also lose his mind. He shouts to Sylphie that it is very dangerous here, so she should hide somewhere. He, at this moment, doubts whether Musashi's skills are enough for him. Suddenly, someone approaches them at this moment and calls Sylphie mistress. Mel Lalute immediately reads her characteristics. Her name is Lysrot Kivel. She is a guard of the Kingdom of Philionese and a companion of Musashi Kaido. The girl continues to cry and does not stop smiling, and a blush can be seen on her cheeks. Sylphie awkwardly asks her if they know each other. Lisa's face immediately changes and she becomes very scared. She calls Sylphie mistress again and doesn't understand why the girl doesn't recognize her. Mel Lalute yells at Sylphie to leave with her. Tia wants to object, but then Lisa defends Sylphie and points her weapon at the boy because she thinks that he is the priest's killer and the one who defeated Musashi. Mel Lalute shouts that he will be fine, so let Sylphie go with Miss Lysrot. Sylphie agrees since he says so. Lisa wonders if this guy is supposed to be bad and how does he know her name. Mel Lalute sees a gun in Lisa's hands and realizes who shot earlier. Marion starts screaming in rage. Mel Lalute is torn and realizes that this is terrible. Here Mariana is already heading towards Lisa with a sword. At this time, the girl was holding Mel at gunpoint and then turns her head towards Mariana and does not understand what is happening and why the girl is running straight at her. Lisa points the gun at Mariana and asks who she is. The girl looks very scared. At this time, Marion looked very angry. Lisa tried to stop her and asked what she wanted from them all. Marion at this moment thought that she was ready to attack and really wanted to kill all her targets. Mel Lalute watches this whole battle and realizes that Marion is reacting to the magic gun, so he yells at Lisa not to shoot her, but rather to drop the gun and run. She doesn't hear him and starts shooting at her, warning her not to come near her. Marion deftly dodges and Lisa realizes that she can't hit, but doesn't understand why. Mel Lalute realizes that with the help of the heavenly eyes she predicts the flight path trajectory, and Lisa at this moment begins to understand that this is useless and absolutely useless. She then turns around and hugs Sylphie sharply, thinking that she will at least save Lady Sylphina and asks for her forgiveness, while Sylphie herself remains in place in surprise. Mel steps forward. The young man opens his arms and covers the girls. He realizes that he can take the hit with Genbu's shell. Lisa turns around, looks, but doesn't understand what this guy is doing. Marion starts to tremble in front of him and Mel Lalute looks at him in surprise. In Marion's eyes, a picture of Mel Lalute protecting Lisa and Sylphie is visible. The girl froze in place. The young man tries to understand what is happening. Mel Lalute looks on hopefully. Lisa and Sylphie look on in confusion. Marion falls with the thought that she does not want to kill anyone and decides that she needs to put the sword away. She thinks that she seems to have lost consciousness and gone mad. She struggles to contain herself. Mel Lalute shouts at Lisa to take Sylphie and leave right now. Tia resists and tells him not to tell her what to do. The girl covers Sylphie with her hands and then uses the Wind Spirit's robe skill. Marion starts to go crazy again. She turns towards Sylphie and Lisa and then starts running after them. Mal thinks that Marion went in the wrong direction. He tries to figure out what he can use, like a pipe or a sheath, but unfortunately it's too late and there's no time. At this point, Lisa is surprised by what she sees before her eyes. Mel folded his arms and used Lisa's skill, firing a bullet. This bullet caught Marion's attention. She flinched and then turned around. Lisa wonders if he could use the same magic bullet skill as her, and with his bare hands. Sylphie is also surprised at this point. Mel Lalute tells Marion that he is the more dangerous opponent for her. Lisa keeps wondering who this guy is. Marion growls at him in rage. Mel Lalute is shaking all over and thinking how much his arm hurts, but then he strengthened his defense with the Genbu shell, but it still hurts a lot. There are abrasions on his arms after using this bullet. Kaido asks Mal if he is stupid. Since he should run, she is impossible to defeat, and he cannot defeat the owner of the Heavenly Eyes in a berserk state. Mel Lalute asks what this fool is talking about, and then says in all seriousness that he really wants to run away, but he cannot abandon Marion in this state. The young man seemed very persistent and self-assured. Kaido says that maybe she will come to her senses if he kisses her again. In one fairy tale, the Sleeping Beauty was awakened from sleep by the prince's kiss. The young man asks in panic if he can do this to her. The young man's eyes flash and he wonders how he can bring the evil girl out of her berserk state. He has already read her characteristics, but he tries to look deeper into her. The young man looks at the girl, who is now in an unbearable rage. Thanks to the skill, the young man learns that Mel's kiss Lalute will bring the girl out of her berserk state and return her sanity. Mel Lalute is very embarrassed and does not understand why his name is there, but he notices something and stops thinking. Mariana attacks again. The girl swings and lunges straight forward. The young man grabs the defeated samurai and his face depicts the emotion of haste and fear. The boy then throws Kaido away. The man screams and says that this is very cruel. At this time, Marion attacks the place where the boy and Kaido were. Kaido falls head first and hits the ground and asks Mel if he couldn't have done it more gently. The boy doesn't pay attention to him because he's very focused. Mel Lalute, looking at Mariana, thinks that the girl is attacking from a blind spot. He barely managed to dodge. After all, her heavenly eyes and berserk state make her a formidable opponent. Mel Lalute looks at the destroyed land and thinks that she is truly strong. In a berserk state, she is driven by the desire to eradicate evil. He understands, looking at the girl, that although it is difficult for her to control herself, she restrains herself with willpower so as not to hurt people. Perhaps her strength is not inferior to the strength of the hero. Ariana wants to say something or shout something again, but then Mel Lalute asks her for forgiveness. His face looks very unhappy. The young man looks at Marion's furious eyes and then touches his face with his hand and thinks that he will now read all the information about her using his skills. All the information about the girl appears next to the young man. After reading it, he exhales and thinks that now he is as strong as Marion. In other words, he has gained a status equal to that of a hero. Mel Lalute runs to the very sword that the girl has stuck in the ground. He grabs the hilt of the sword and realizes that Marion should have pulled out this sword in the first place. He tries to pull it out and realizes that he can't pull out this sword no matter how hard he pulls. This puzzled him greatly. He thinks that it can't be because in that case copying the skills wasn't enough to pull out the sword. The young man tries to pull out the sword with all his might. In the background, Marion is about to attack, which Mel himself understands. She looks at him with hatred, and Mel is frightened by this and is horrified. Mel Lalute remembers some of the girl's phrases and how she frowned and said that it was rude, or when she said that he had a hard time. The young man grabbed the sword with full confidence and thought that he had to pull the sword out to bring her back to her senses. The situation takes a very serious turn. He calms down and closes his eyes and then takes stock of the sword itself. He must assess it. The hero must delve as deeply as far as possible into this sword itself, into its essence, its past. Suddenly he sees another person in front of him, and in front of him is a huge pile of different monsters. This person is wearing a long cloak, and in front of him is a huge and shiny sword blade. The young man tries to understand where he is now and where he ended up. Then the young man notices this man, and then sees this very sword in the man's hand. He sees many different fragments from the sword's own memories. All the battles, fights, duels, and great battles. The protagonist has seen it all. Mel Lalute understands that the sword was kinder than all, has slain more enemies than others, has saved more people than anyone else, and yet has made no friendship with anyone. He sees Ars Drago himself before him and understands that only the sword was his comrade. He thinks that this man must be very lonely. Ars Drago was an ordinary man of 24 years old and had the title of a hero. Ahead of Ars Drago were hordes of enemies. Behind him was a mountain of corpses. While killing thousands of demons, he saw tens of thousands in front of him. The man was very clever in wielding a sword. Finally, this hero fought a dragon as huge as a mountain and as terrible as disaster itself. The monster was dozens of times bigger than the young man. The fierce battle lasted for 3 days and 3 nights, and finally, having borrowed the power of the gods, the hero slew the dragon by thrusting his sword straight into its head. But although he destroyed his flesh, he could not destroy his soul, and with difficulty he managed to seal it. The price of victory was a curse placed on the hero. He was swallowed by the abyss of chaos and suffered endless torment throughout his life. All this caused him unbearable pain. Ars Drago tells Mal that this is half of his life. Ars Drago's life became a part of Mal, as if he himself had witnessed those events. The young man was very tense, but the hero himself stood before him. This is not a legend. The dragon was really slain by this man, in front of whom the young man now stands. If people really do have a soul, leaving the body after death, that person is doomed to eternal torment. Ars Drago asks him if he understands that the owner of this sword will have an unenviable fate. The young man is completely serious and shows Mal the sword, trying to convey to him that this could be incredibly dangerous. He asks if he is strong enough to bear the burden of this fate, and if not, then he should leave here immediately. The man was dead serious, but the boy was also dead serious, and he wasn't going to leave. He stroked the sword and said that if fortune was kind, he would live his life without seeing the end of this world. He pointed the sword at him and asked him what his answer was. Mel Lalute looks at the blade of the sword and says that he cannot leave. Ars Drago says that he answered without hesitation that it was even commendable, in which case let him follow his advice and leave this place. Mel Lalute says that he can't do that either. Ars Drago is surprised and then asks why the boy can't do that. He says he has to pull out the sword and save Marion. He is absolutely serious. He says he understands he came here for personal reasons. Mel Lalute asks him if this is bad. He smiles and says that it's not bad at all. He closes his eyes and answers that he told himself he had to save the world, but he really fought because he wanted to. He wonders if he can deny that inescapable fact. The man opens his eyes and says that he is actually impressed by the fact that the young man is honest with himself. Mel Lalute is surprised and looks at Ars Drago. Then, after a short silence, Mel Lalute asks him if he can ask him one question. Without waiting, he asks if Ars Drago has any regrets. The man looks at his reflection in the blade of his sword. He asks his question, and Ars Drago asks if he regrets anything in his life. The young man answers in the affirmative, thus confirming his question. Ars Drago replies that he wouldn't say he's had a full life, but he's mostly happy with everything. Mel Lalute asks if even though he had it tough, he replies that he did, since he was weak enough to seal the evil dragon. Mel Lalute doesn't understand how such a legendary hero can be weak. Mel Lalute looks at his stats and realizes that many of the S's are marked with a minus, so his strength really is barely up to par with the heroes. A table with characteristics appears in front of him. Mel Lalute emphasizes that Ars Drago's unique skill, Heavenly Eyes, is only C rank. Mariana is one level higher, and if you look at the description, it is clear that the effect is weaker. Ars Drago asks him if he has read it, and the young man gives a positive answer, thereby admitting that he really read the characteristics of Ars Drago. He tells him that just by reading it, he can't defeat the dragon, he must be able to seal it. On top of that, reading the dragon is like dying. The boy asks what Ars Drago means by that. Mel Lalute thinks that's a bit harsh. Ars Drago smiles and tells him to read it and stale it. If he can do it, then he is a really strong man. He tells him to let this thought motivate him because he is sure that the young man will be able to read even the past hero. Ars Drago says that it would be a good idea for the boy to read it once and steal it to experience the curse for himself. Mel Lalute asks what the man means by it. He assumes that Ars is talking about the dragon and then asks something. Namely, that the man didn't say that the curse was terrible. Ars Drago tells him not to worry and just believe in himself. He himself had a hard time sealing this dragon, feeling the futility of trying to defeat it. He says that the previous hero felt the same way, but what would have happened if there were two heroes? Mel Lalute is surprised and repeats Ars Drago's assumption that there could be two heroes. He asks what that could mean. Ars Drago is surprised and says he'll never see him again, so he should say. He advises Mel Lalute should be very careful with fairies. The young man does not understand what Ars Drago is talking about and asks if the same fairies made his sword. The man replies that these creatures are far from being on their side, but they are not enemies either, so the young man can use them to the maximum. Finally, it's time to say goodbye. Ars Drago says it's time and then wants to ask the boy one more time. He hands him the sword and asks him in all seriousness if he's going to pull it out. The young man takes the sword from Ars Drago's hands and confidently gives a positive answer that he is going to pull it out. Ars Drago tells him that he only has an increased speed of thought right now, so he asks him not to relax after he draws the sword. The boy is surprised to see that he is holding the sword and hears Ars Drago's words and then agrees. The hero adds that whether the young man wants it or not, he will soon fall under the power of an inexorable fate and will resist destiny, whose burden will be unbearable for him. This will be a very difficult test and quite difficult. He must gain such strength with which he can free himself from the yoke of cruel fortune. Ars Drago says this in all seriousness. He wants to convey absolutely everything to the boy. Mel Lalute thinks that he does not know what awaits him, but he will solve problems as they come because no matter what, he does not want to experience pain. Mal continues to hold the sword in his hands and listen to Ars Drago. Ars Drago smiles and says how optimistic Mel Lalute is. He also says that he is a little jealous of the boy's attitude towards life. His smile looks very peaceful, as if he has been freed from something. Suddenly, Mal begins to fly and is very scared by this. Ars Drago tells him to go, having acquired divine eyes that surpass the heavenly eyes. He calls Mel Lalute is the owner of divine eyes. The young man at this moment flies up with the sword. He does not understand the words of Ars Drago and asks what heavenly eyes he is talking about and why he called him the owner of heavenly eyes. Ars Drago tells the boy that he is the only one in this world who has this power, which is why she gave him the special X rank. Mel Lalute doesn't understand who Ars Drago means, but Ars Drago says that everyone knows who she is, but no one has ever seen her. He continues to smile and look at Mal, who has almost left this space. Ars Drago continues to talk about her, but the young man can hardly hear his last words because something begins to sparkle and blind his eyes. At this time, Ars Drago says that she is the patroness of the human race, that is, a real goddess. After some time, Mel Lalute returns to the real world, and then he pulls the hero's sword out of the stone. Marion and Kaido are very surprised by what they see. They froze in an instant. Sylphie, Lisa, and Clara in the bushes also watched what was happening. Suddenly, people started gathering in the square. They came there when they heard a loud noise. They didn't understand what was happening. After Mel Lalute pulled the sword out of the stone, his entire consciousness suddenly became clouded. He saw the sword of the hero Ars Drago in his hands, but his body was still swaying. Suddenly, Mel Lalute realized that his head was splitting unbearably. He sat down on a stone because he could no longer stand on his feet. His whole body was shaking violently, but the sword remained in his hands. The young man recalls Ars Drago's words when he said that the young man's thinking speed was only increased. He asked him not to relax after he pulled out the sword. Mel understood what Ars Drago meant when he said these words to him. The young man felt unbearable pain. At that moment, he looked at Marion, who was standing and was very surprised by what had happened. Suddenly, she pulled herself together and started getting angry again. Mel Lalute thinks he has to do it. He has to stop Marion. At this moment, the girl lunges forward and points the sword at the young man, who, in turn, prepares to defend himself. The boy crouches and then jumps up sharply. Marion did not expect this, so she stopped abruptly. Suddenly, Mel Lalute appeared right in front of the girl's hands. He moved so quickly that it was hard to foresee his actions. The young man was very surprised that he had become extremely fast. He didn't use any skills. Moreover, he is now even faster than when he used Mountain Deer Stride. The youth thinks that the difference between S rank and A rank is really that big. At this time, Marion finds it very difficult to fight Mal. She tries to dodge, but the young man attacks again and again. The young man used the special effect of the hero's sword. This will activate the Fairy King's Divine Protection skill. Marion doesn't understand what's happening. The girl starts attacking after attack, but the boy does not receive any damage. The effect of the Divine Protection of the Fairy King lasts for 15 seconds. He does not feel any damage at all. This is what a real hero's sword means. The boy clutches his sword and then shouts Marion's name. He embraces her and holds her close. Then the boy takes the girl's face and asks her to come to her senses. He continues to hug the heroine. Then the young man kisses the girl, and her sword falls out of her hand. Marion's eyes widen and she throws her sword. The whole crowd is shocked and Sylphie is just shaking with anger. Lizzie also doesn't understand what's going on. Soul Sylphans, it almost flies away from this. Lisa is very worried about her. Mel Lalute and Marion move away from each other. The girl comes to her senses. The young man blushes with embarrassment and then asks her for forgiveness. The girl loses her balance and her legs give way. Mel Lalute realizes that she seems to have come to her senses. The girl looks confused and sees Mal in front of her. Lalute, the young man, is also embarrassed and tries to catch his breath. Suddenly, Mel Lalute uses his spirit shroud ability and begins to float. He sees Marion, who is watching the young man with confusion. The girl has not yet fully come to her senses and does not understand what is happening. As the young man was taking off, he saw a crowd of people below him. The people stood and watched the young man who held the hero's sword in his hands. The young man thought that there were quite a lot of people. Then the young man flies up to the bushes and, spreading his arms, tells Clara to come to him. The girl jumps out of the bushes and flies straight to the young man. The girl hugs the young man and cuddles up to him. Clara says that she was very scared and thought that she would just be killed. She was shaking all over, but the young man smiled and said that now everything would be fine with them. The girl began to reach for the young man and stuck out her tongue. The young man asks why the girl began to lick her. Clara says that when she is scared, she does this to calm herself down. The girl says that she does it when she is having fun. At this time, Lisa and Sylphie were watching what was happening. Sylphie was very embarrassed by this, and Lizzie looked with disgust. Mel Lalute says he has something to talk about. He suggests they talk away from prying eyes and ears. He asks Lisa to follow him. The girl hesitates, then says that she understands everything. After a while, the girl follows, holding Sylphie, behind Mal, who is holding Clara. Marion remains sitting on the ground, looking in surprise at Mel Lalute and the others flying away. Her face is completely red, her arms are spread out to the sides, her sword is lying next to her, her mouth is slightly open, and her heart is beating loudly. She thinks that the first kiss was an accident. She remembers that surprised look from Mel himself, Lalute, and in the second he already saved her. The second time he grabbed her cheeks more boldly and pulled her to him with his eyes closed. She touches her lips and says his name, Mel. He continues to look at the sky in surprise, and her heart continues to beat loudly and quickly. Gosif runs up to her with his eyes full of fear and horror, sweat pouring down his face. He asks if she is okay. She even shudders in surprise and starts blushing. This is because he addressed her in a way that is not usual. Gosif stops abruptly. He opens his mouth, eyebrows raised, and says awkwardly that he was disrespectful. He immediately apologizes for being rude, stuttering, and asks if she is hurt, but she says she is fine, she is just a little tired. Mariana looks down and says that she has caused so much trouble for everyone, just think about it. The girl looks very depressed and sad. She understands that she has done something unacceptably terrible. She comes to her senses and then stands up and asks the man if there are any casualties, to which Gaziv replies that only one bounty hunter was hurt. Mariana tells him that this bounty hunter is the instigator of all this chaos, so Gaziv must take him away and interrogate him. The man replies that he understood the order and will go to carry it out. Marion exhales. She thinks that, thank God, everything worked out and there were no killed or injured. After all, in the worst case, she herself could have died. For the first time since then, she entered a state of berserk, so conceited about herself that she believed that she could control herself. The girl looks incredibly sad. She blushes again, touches her lips, looks down, and thinks that he stopped her. Gosif says that the guy, Mel Lalute, did something outrageous. The girl says that there is no point in talking about such trifles. She fidgets awkwardly, blushes, and says that it's nothing and just a couple of kisses. The girl clasps her hands to her chest and starts fidgeting with embarrassment. Gosif says that he actually meant the hero's sword. She screams in embarrassment, so that's what it is. Gosif says that the hero's sword is a national treasure, and having lost it, the country suffered great damage. They look at the huge stone in which the sword used to be. Mariana says that the guy was recognized as the sword, that's why he was able to pull it out. The girl says that anyone had every right to do this, so they can't blame the boy for this. Gosif says that technically she is right, but that does not mean that you can just take a sword from a public place. You have to go through certain procedures, and it is written on the tombstone. Marion asks if this is like stealing. She thinks that the plaque says that if they can, then let them take it. Some soldiers come and take the samurai away. He is still indignant and says that they can't be more gentle because he already told them that his arm is broken. Marion comes out and says that she will take responsibility because she put this city in danger, so she has to fix everything. The girl sadly realizes that she has done something terrible. Gosif excitedly asks if the girl is sure of her words. She smiles and says that she does not need any concessions. Marion smiles sweetly. At this time, a cart is driving. Lisa sits discontentedly and looks at the floor. Clara happily says that they are approaching an inn. Mad suggests that they stop there and talk in a relaxed atmosphere. Lisa watches as Sylphina Estfelania holds his hand, wondering if he is too close to Lady Sylphina. Mel Lalute notices this and wonders what that creepy look is. Stretches out before them. Clara's stomach growls and then she tells Mal that she is very hungry. The girl's spirits are crushed and she clutches her stomach. Mel Lalute tells the girls that they will go and eat then. In the background, Lisa is talking to a soldier. Mel Lalute asks her if they can have lunch first. Suddenly, the girl asks if the young man knows that she became interested in how he knows her name. She says that she hasn't introduced herself yet. The girl looks at the boy with some disdain. Mel Lalute smiles awkwardly and says that he will tell about it later. The girl sighs indignantly. They sit down to eat. There is meat and vegetables on the table. Mel Lalute says they can't afford to spend much, but she's been a good girl, so they're having a feast today. Clara is happy. Lisa is sitting there with the same dissatisfied face. Sylphina Estfelania says it looks delicious. She doesn't listen to anyone because she's distracted by her food. Mel Lalute doesn't understand why they're staring at him. He smiles awkwardly and beads of sweat run down his face. He tells Lisa to eat too and not to be shy, but she refuses and says that she will abstain. The girl continues to look at the young man with disdain, and he continues to laugh awkwardly. Sylphina Estfelania smiles sweetly and tells Lisa that it is more fun to eat together and the food tastes better. Here Lisa begins to glow and become embarrassed. The girl says that since Mrs. Sylphina Estfelania says so, then she agrees. Mel Lalute, of course, understands that she behaves differently with him, but he does not understand the reason for this because he does not remember doing anything wrong. After a while, they all start eating together. Suddenly, the young man notices something. He sees Sylphina Estfelania eating very appetizingly, but Lisa at that moment starts crying. The girl has completely softened at that moment. Clara asks the girl if she is okay and what happened to her. Lisa says that she is just glad that Ms. Sylphina Estfelania has returned. The girl begins to cry and shake with excitement. Sylphina Estfelania is like an angel and everything in the world to Lisa. Mel Lalute and Sylphina Estfelania look at Lisa very attentively and with surprise. The girl says that during her apprenticeship she had poor control over magic, for which she was ridiculed by those around her, and for the sake of such a talentless student as her, Mrs. Sylphina Estfelania turned to the mother goddess for advice. Lisa eventually joined the guard and successfully overcame many difficulties, only thanks to Mrs. Sylphina. The girl continues to cry at this point. When she learned that Mrs. Sylphina Estfelania had gone missing, she was beside herself. The girl tries to wipe her tears with her hands and says that she is very happy that her mistress has finally been found. Sylphina Estfelania and Mel Lalute smile. A slight blush can be seen on Sylphina Estfelania's cheeks. Lisa apologizes and decides to introduce herself. The girl bows and says that she is a guard of the kingdom of Philiones, but she asks to be called simply Lisa. Mel Lalute also bows and says it's a pleasure to meet you, then points to Clara and introduces her, then becomes indignant at the way she poses in front of her. Sylphina Estfelania also introduces herself, simplifying her name and saying that she is just Sylphie. She is told that this is too familiar. She replies that she does not remember anything about her past and is not used to being treated like a princess. The girl says that this is why she wants Lisa to be her friend. She says this and asks if the girl is okay with it. Lisa screams, how can she be against it? Sylphina Estfelania says that then it is decided, and then she holds out her hand and says that now they are friends. Lisa, surprised, says that she understood her. She shakes her hand. The girl is embarrassed at this point. Mel Lalute also introduces himself, winks, and extends his hand to her. He says that he is Mel Lalute, but Lisa can just call him Mal. The girl turns gloomily towards Mal and says that she will refrain from shaking his hand. Sylphie, Clara, and Lisa are taking a bath together. Clara happily splashes herself in the water. Lisa wipes Sylphie's back and shouts that it's too crowded here. She asks Clara to wait her turn. She happily rushes towards them anyway. Lisa and Sylphie look at Clara in surprise, their mouths open. Lisa compares her very thin body with Clara's and gets very angry. Then she turns away, offended, and says that size is not the most important thing. Sylphie looks at her in surprise. Clara says that large forms are a hindrance, so she envies them both, but they ask whether this was really a mockery on the part of the girl. Clara asks them in surprise what are big forms for anyway. Sylphie doesn't understand this either and looks at what Lisa will answer. Lisa starts blushing deeply at this time from such a frank question. She answers that to have a child from a loved one, probably. Clara says that she understands. Lisa adds that it is not certain because she is not sure. Clara says without a second thought that she will use everything to be with her brother. Lisa and Sylphie look at her in shock. She adds that she will try the same for both Lisa and Sylphie. Lisa smiles awkwardly and says, so that's how it is. Sylphie trembles and wants to say something, then she shouts that having a child means getting married. She screams that you can't marry Mel Lalute. Clara says okay, she agrees, she will just be a member of the family. Sylphie says if you don't get married, there won't be a child either. Sylphie asks in surprise if it is really possible to have a child without getting married, but she is embarrassed and doesn't know how to say it. Mel Lalute looks out the window, listening to their conversation through the door and wondering what they are talking about. His cheeks are burning. He looks like someone who is waiting for something. The young man continues to look out the window very peacefully. Then he turns and looks at the sword. He remembers the dialogue about the evil dragon, probably still somewhere. His look looks very sad. He leans on the windowsill and says that the dragon is in this world, so maybe he will learn something about the dragon if he can read the world itself. He opens his eyes, concentrates, and sees Lisa telling the girls that they need to grow up a little first. Clara is sulking. She wants to know. The three of them are scared by the sight of Mel because he stands with his mouth open, his nose is bleeding, and there are signs of fatigue under his eyes. The girls say that Mel has a nosebleed. Lisa wonders if he has changed after hearing their conversation, which is why he started bleeding. Mel Lalute sees this and shouts that everything is wrong, although he really heard them. Sylphina Estfelania runs up to Mel Lalute and asks if he is okay. He says he is fine, wiping the blood from his nose. Mel Lalute says that he wanted to read the evil dragon sealed somewhere in this world, but it took too much energy. Lisa wonders how to read an evil dragon. Mel Lalute tells her that when she dries her hair, he will tell her about his skill. Lisa talks about the appraisal skill and even X rank. She hears about such a rank for the first time. Mel Lalute says that he thought that if he reads the world, maybe he will learn something about the dragon. Lisa looks at him suspiciously. Mel Lalute says that apparently this information is not so easy to obtain. His body gave in. Lisa says that is why his nose started bleeding. Mel Lalute says that it looks like if nothing is done, the dragon will reappear in 16 years. Lisa thinks and says that it looks like they have plenty of time. If nothing is done, someone will come along and speed up the dragon's appearance, and there is a chance that it will return tomorrow. Mel Lalute says that all he knows is that if he gets stronger, if he trains his body, maybe he can improve his judgment skill. Lisa suggests that he train. Mel Lalute makes a dissatisfied face. Lisa says that his face shows reluctance to train. He senses that the training will be hard. Lisa gloomily asks if he is not a hero since he pulled out a hero's sword. He says that it is so. Lisa asks what his stats are. He sees his characteristics and sees that they have increased. He tries to compare past characteristics and understands that they have really increased. Much of the data has become positive, although it was previously negative. He feels like it's really hard to raise his stats. Doesn't he need to train for at least a year to raise his E level to D level? He suddenly remembers the words of Ars Drago, who says that if he can do it, then he is strong. Let this thought motivate him. Mel Lalute says that there was too much information about the assessment skill, so he didn't read it all. He starts to say something. The girls listen to him attentively. He reads that all acquisitions, whether physical, spiritual, or magical, obtained as a result of theft increase the characteristics. In other words, while stealing, he gains experience points. If we take his D rank and his S rank hero who read, each of them, fighting the same way, would gain a different amount of experience. He understands that he will be able to become stronger very soon. He also reads that the knowledge, skills, and experience accumulated by the object are added. He understands that they are also added. Stolen skills do not replace old ones, but are added to them. If he steals skills from someone, his stats will become higher than his own. He tells everyone that it turns out that if he becomes as strong as the hero and reads the hero, he will have the strength of 2 heroes. So now he has the power of 2 heroes in one. In the battle with the dragon, if there are 2 heroes, the situation will change dramatically. At this time, a girl with long hair knocks on the door of some mansion and asks to talk. Another person behind the door tells her to get lost and calls her a walking infection. The girl screams, asking what she did to deserve such treatment. The man behind the door again rudely tells her to shut up. The woman promises to curse. The girl ends up in a dungeon. For better or worse, she, Marion Verdemian, was special from childhood. From the age of 7, she aspired to become a knight, and there was no one who would laugh at the fact that a woman had such a dream. Everyone had high hopes for her. She was read without waiting for the blessing ceremony. It turned out that she had a very rare and at the same time suitable skill. Her unique skill is Berserk. It was decided that his skill could be very useful in battle. She was called the 8th wonder of the world, having received the skill before reaching the age of 15 and the favorite of the gods, but the happiness was short-lived. The warrior lies on the ground with multiple wounds. The girl fights with the tiger. She stabs him with her sword. The heroine is extremely excited. The man is amazed by her terrifying abilities. The girl finishes off the beast. She sits on her knees in a pool of blood. No one expected that the berserker state would transform a person so much. This happened when she was only 9 years old. Despite the successful outcome of the battle, they decided that she could become more dangerous than a magical beast and put her under house arrest for 6 years. She says that thanks to the heavenly eyes, she became free as the one who inherited the hero's will, but ultimately entered the berserker state again and endangered those around her. Kaido is behind bars. She says that's why she is here. She's afraid of cats and lost control of herself because she remembered the saber-toothed tiger she defeated when she was 9, so she has no excuse. The hero says that the girl is also honest. Kei and Do tells her that she is also honest, and then suggests that maybe she is just trying to calm herself down. She says she knows it, but because of her little mistake, someone might have gotten hurt. Kaido agrees with her and says that he got injured. She asks if it wasn't his fault. Kaido smiles. Marion says that after all, his arm was broken by the guy he attacked himself. He understands that he was exposed. He says he only wanted to capture the cruel murderer of the Holy Father. Marion says there are eyewitnesses who claim he showed up after overhearing their conversation while hiding in the shadows. Kaido says no, so it's a misunderstanding. There was silence. Kaido starts talking about that guy. He tries to remember his name. Marion begins to blush. Kaido says he's incredible to think he pulled out the hero's sword. Marion agrees and says that's true. She says that he pulled it out by right. He asks if she is offended. Wasn't she, who inherited the hero's will, supposed to pull out the sword? She wonders if she is offended. The girl says that perhaps inheriting the hero's will means taking on an unbearable burden. She looks down and says that this is the burden she has placed on him. She'd have drawn her sword earlier. Kaido looks at her in surprise. He smiles and says, who is she kidding? She probably wasn't given the ability to pull out that sword. Kaido asks what he will do now. She replies that she was accepted into the Knight's Corps only on the condition that she would not go into a berserker state again, so of course she will be expelled, and she is ready to be punished. She says she failed to become a hero, so she will most likely be put under house arrest again. She says she realizes this but still wants to ask. He asks if she wants to join the Knights again. She says no, she wants to be allowed to find him, to be given the duty of bringing back the hero. After all, the hero's sword is the treasure of their country, and the hero's strength is necessary for the country. Kaido tells her that she is too serious, and he doesn't like people like that. Marion sarcastically asks him for forgiveness. He says that it's not to his taste or not to his liking. That's another question. Kaido says that such a reason is not good enough, so she should reveal her true desire. He asks her why she wants to find him. Is the hero's sword and the hero himself really that interesting to her? She remembers all the moments with Mio. The girl shakes his hand and screams with her eyes closed. She says that she fell in love with him. Mel walks calmly through the forest and hears some sounds. He asks Clara what she is doing. She is digging something or removing something from the ground. She explains that she went to the toilet, so she throws sand, so to speak, to observe the rules of decency. Mel apologizes to her for possibly seeming rude, but he asks her to express herself in a less shameful manner. Here Clara starts making sounds as if she is going to throw up. Mel immediately becomes wary, realizing that something is about to happen. Finally, she makes the final sound. He asks her if she really threw up. He is worried if everything is okay with her. Clara tells him not to worry. Vomiting is also one of the duties of cats. Mel thinks and wonders, is it possible that she is not a tiger but a cat? He asks her to say whether she is a human or a tiger. She raises her hands and shouts that she is half tiger, which means she is a human. Here she makes these sounds again in a row. He is horrified. Is she really still vomiting? Cats often vomit. He thinks that she is more of a cat than a person. Isn't that so? Lisa asks as they all sit at the table enjoying a delicious meal what he will do now. Sylphie looks at him in surprise. Mel Lalute asks for time to think while he chews delicious bread. He does not want to think too much. He left all his things in the city where the hero died, so he needs to buy. Mel Lalute thinks to herself that she is a person of mood. She says that she is about his plans more global than going to the store. Mel Lalute asks her if she won't go to the land of the elves since she is tasked with bringing Sylphina Estfelania home. Lisa says that Sylphina Estfelania has lost her memories. She says that Sylphin Estfelania's lost memories need to be restored first. Mel Lalute asks if it would not be better to do this upon returning to the land of the elves. Mel Lalute asks if this means she needs to regain her memories before returning to the elf country. She says that it probably does. Lisa asks Sylphie if she has ever heard a divine voice. She doesn't understand and asks what it is. Lisa says with a sad face that she thought so. Then she confidently tells Sylphie that as a priestess of light, she has lost her powers. She asks again. Lisa says that she is the only one who can receive divine revelations. Once having received a divine revelation, she set out to look for the hero who would inherit the will, taking with her a minimum of security. Mel Lalute asks if it was secret. She says that yes, it was not revealed that a hero was needed, and if it were found out, the world would be plunged into chaos and they would not be able to find a hero. Mel Lalute says that he understands, so she went secretly, and on the way she was attacked by the great thief Hegel Ois. She asks him if he knows why Sylphina Est Felania lost her memories. He says that it seems she drank a strange medicine. Her status says it's a curse of oblivion. Lisa thinks and says that in order to dispel the curse placed on the mind, they will need a good sorcerer. Mel Lalute asks to wait a little. He is going to read the world and find a sorcerer capable of this. A gust of wind begins. Lisa wonders if his nose will bleed again. Lisa worries if he is okay. Clara just keeps eating. Mel Lalute says that there is a town a few days' journey from here that has a sorcerer suitable for them, but she is a very old woman. Lisa says thank God in every sense. Mel Lalute suggests taking a cart and going there. Lisa says that she wants to stop at one place first. They stand outside while Lisa talks to someone. Mel Lalute wonders if these people are Lisa's friends. He overhears their conversation. Lisa says that Sylphina Est Felania has lost her memories, but she will definitely get them back. She also says that she found a hero. The girl next to her says how handsome he is. She would also like to travel with the handsome hero. They ask to pass on information to the country. Mel Lalute smiles smugly and thinks that he is just a genius. He realized this without using the appraisal skill. She says that about Sylphina Est Felania and that they found the inheritor of the hero's will to report upon returning to the country. He still thinks that he is a genius. Lisa is irritated. What kind of facial expressions are these? As a result, they are riding in a cart, approaching some village and realize that there is a storm here and there are no people. They ask if there is anyone there. Mel Lalute says that he sees shadows of people, which means there is someone inside. Sylphina Est Felania wonders why no one is reacting. The wind blows. Mel Lalute understands that there are ruins here. The whole city is dilapidated. He notices some man who goes from door to door. The hero watches this in surprise. She is all over the place, knocking on doors and asking to open them. She goes to another door and asks someone to listen to her. Lisa says that something is going on there. Voices are heard from the house, rudely chasing the girl away, calling her a walking plague. It is because of her granny that the city has become like this. The girl screams that she is not a plague. This girl screams that Grandma has nothing to do with it. It's the ruler's fault. A voice from the house screams at her not to shift the blame onto him. The girl begins to tremble and decides to curse the one who says this. Mel Lalute sees that her name is Nainali Zeta. She is the granddaughter of a witch. A voice from the house asks her what she can do. She calls her a clumsy person. Nainali is shaking all over. Then she very embarrassedly says that she is not clumsy. It is just that the curse boomerangs back on the one who curses, which is why she does not do it. She leaves and says she will try her luck in another house. She is stopped as soon as she sees Mel. She gets scared and asks who he is. She holds out her fingers again and threatens to curse. She asks who they are anyway. Mel Lalute realizes what a problematic person she is. He suggests that she listen to them first. With trembling hands, she pours them tea, asks them to help themselves, and then hides in the corner from them all. She is still shaking and asks what they want. Mel Lalute says that they want to ask her grandmother to lift the curse. She wonders how to lift the curse. She says that her grandmother is not here now. They ask her when she will come, and she answers that perhaps she will not return. She begins to cry and says that according to rumors, her grandmother has cast a curse of decline on the city, but she is being falsely accused, in her opinion. She says that officials came and threw Grandma into prison. Maybe she will never come back. The reason for the decline is the wrong policy of the ruler, but the blame for everything was put on Grandma. She continues to cry. Lisa says that this happens often. The world is full of rulers who blame their mistakes on evil spirits or unknown forces. She says with regret that it is still a shame that she was captured, and how can they now lift the curse from Sylphie? Clara looks at them with a pitiful face and then at Nainali herself, who continues to cry. She confidently tells her team that they must save this granny. Nainali stops crying and raises her head. Sylphina Estfelania says that she also hates it when innocent people are accused. Everyone asks Mel for his opinion. He knows that their actions will surely bring misfortune to many. He has such a premonition. She agrees and says that they will save her grandmother. He will do everything in his power to make everyone happy. In the evening, they all stand at the cliff, and then with the help of the wind spirit's cover they move, flying in a group. Nainali gets scared and screams that it's too high. They land at the ruler's house, namely on a balcony. The guards don't see them. They enter and walk down the hallway, looking around, and everyone is watching. Mel Lalute sees the soldier thinking that he wants to sleep, and Nainali rushes forward in search of her grandmother, not noticing the soldier. He grabs her abruptly by the elbow and tells her to wait, pressing her against the wall and covering her mouth with his hand. She starts to blush and moan into her hand. Mel Lalute looks at the soldier and sees that he has gone the other way. He takes his hand off the girl's mouth, asks for forgiveness, and says it was an accident. He reads her mind again that she will curse him. She thinks he is indecent and does not know what to do. They go down the stairs, come to some doors. There is a guard standing there alone. Mel Lalute wonders if they are really keeping Granny there. He thinks with relief that there is only one guard. He sees that the guard is also already sleepy. Mel Lalute thinks maybe attack him head-on. Mel Lalute pulls out his sword and decides to read the status of the hero Drago, imprisoned in the sword. Something happens quickly in front of the guard. He didn't even have time to think about what just happened, as Mel Lalute approaches him from behind. Mel Lalute hits him in the neck with his elbow. He falls unconscious. Mel Lalute finds the key on him. He arranges everything as if he fell asleep. He opens the doors with the confidence that they belong here. Nainali sees her grandmother behind the dungeon, and she sees her too and recognizes her. Grandma asks her why she is here. Nainali says they came to save her. She says didn't she tell her to leave the city? As soon as Mel Lalute opens the dungeon, Nainali throws herself into her grandmother's arms to hug and cry. Clara, Sylphina Estfelania, and Mel Lalute stand by the Paroa and watch all this, and Granny asks with interest who they are. Mel Lalute introduces herself and says that they wanted to ask her to lift the curse of oblivion, so they came to save her. The grandmother asks if they save her, a criminal, won't they be put in jail too? Nainali tugs at her grandmother and shouts that she is not a criminal, but she shuts her mouth and asks her to be quiet for a bit. She looks at Sylphin Estfelania and believes that this little elf has been cursed. She looks at him haughtily and says that she understands. Grandma hugs Nainali and says that if they get her out of here, she will lift the curse from her in exchange. All the girls are happy, everyone thanks her, only Mel Lalute is suspiciously silent. Someone says that then they should leave this place quickly, then Mel Lalute intervenes and asks if he can ask something. Everyone looks at her in surprise. Grandma is waiting for a question. Mel Lalute asks her why she, Zeta, put a curse on this city. Sylphina Estfelania continues to look at Mal in surprise. Zeta has definitely cursed this city. The ruler has blamed her without knowing it. She wanted to be captured, not knowing that she had cursed the city. She asks if he had said everything. Nainali starts crying again and screaming that Granny did nothing. Granny shuts her up again and says angrily that she told her to be quiet for a bit. Mel Lalute looks and thinks that she has plenty of strength. Zeta asks him how he will prove his words. He understands that this grandmother is going to deny everything, wants to present everything as if the reason for the decline of the city lies in the actions of the ruler and its inhabitants. So that when she is sentenced, she can say that they accused an innocent man and therefore she will curse them. Mel Lalute lowers his eyes sadly. Grandmother Zeta asks what is going on. Why is she silent? She spreads her arms and says that she did nothing. Her granddaughter supports her. The problem is that even if they save her, she will intentionally get captured again, so they need to settle the problem now. Mel Lalute asks if she will continue to pretend innocence. If she doesn't admit her guilt, then Nainali will be the one under suspicion next time. He decided so because he sees that Nainali's unique skill is a high-level curse. He sees that the grandmother's skill is lower than her granddaughter's. It wouldn't be surprising if they thought she was the one who cursed the city. Grandma starts laughing and says that everyone in town knows that Nainali can't do magic. Nainali smiles sadly. Mel Lalute remembers the words that she is clumsy. It's just that the curse boomerangs back to the one who curses, so she doesn't do it. At every opportunity, Zeta tells Nainali how dangerous it is to curse someone, both in the city itself and in other places. She told her granddaughter this over and over again. The word witchcraft, just like the word curse, caused fear in the girl, so she could not cast spells and none of the townspeople suspected her. Mel Lalute asks Zeta this is what she wanted. She made sure that Nonali did not use witchcraft, although she has a talent for it. Grandma guesses and asks, so he is an appraiser. It is easy for him to say, not knowing anything about witchcraft, she thinks that one should not become a sorcerer. Although she said that she did not curse but only removed curses, she was constantly asked to curse someone. Nainali's parents died in an accident, so she decided to live here and take care of her. This city is rotten to the core. Every person thought she was not a witch but a curser. Even the ruler came to her to ask her for it. Mel Lalute asks why she cursed the city. She replies that she said she didn't. He asks her if she hates this city so much, then why does she continue to live here? When Grandma doesn't answer, Mel Lalute replies that the thing is that she couldn't leave because Nainali said she didn't want to leave the city where her parents are buried. Nainali looks questioningly at her grandmother, who hides her gaze. Mel Lalute says that's why she needed the city to fall into disrepair. If no one could live in this city, then Nainali would agree to move. Nainali asks her grandmother. She looks at her granddaughter with great bitterness, says that it seems that Mel Lalute has a high evaluation rank. He understood everything correctly. The grandmother takes her granddaughter by the hand, starts crying and says that she didn't want her to be in this city. She wanted her to live quietly and peacefully in another city like an ordinary person. She must have gone crazy. She swore not to curse anyone, but in the end she messed things up. Nainali tells her that it is not her fault. Granny thanks her and admits that she cursed this town and now she must receive a curse herself. Nonali cries even more and says that she is wrong. The city is not cursed because she lifted the curse from it. Grandma looks at her in surprise. Mel Lalute asks Zet if it is possible to secretly put a curse on the city and secretly remove it. She says that it is possible. Nainali says that she secretly removed the curse from her grandmother. If her grandmother found out that the curse was lifted, she would do something stupid again. She is surprised and tries to say something. Nainali says she was scared, but she knew a way because she was always watching her. She always watched her grandmother remove curses. Even though she was scared, she still watched. I watched the actions of the witch, whom I admired so much. She says that although she can only remove curses, she asks her forgiveness for keeping silent about it because she loves her grandmother and wants her to always be there. Granny starts crying too. Mel Lalute says that Nainali lifted the curse on the town before it could take effect, so no one was hurt. Then they ask why the city fell into decline, and he replies that, as Nainali said, the ruler is to blame. He thinks that although there is something else in this matter, he will try to read the city again and find out everything related to the ruler. He needs to concentrate. Everyone is waiting. Mel Lalute has now become clear. He calls someone a scoundrel. The ruler planned to get rid of his competitors and prosper by casting a curse. He demanded that a young couple bring a famous witch, but was resolutely refused. Enraged, the ruler lured the young couple into a trap and killed them, making it look like they died in an accident. But the sorceress told him that she could not curse, mistakenly thinking that she had lost her powers. The ruler left her alone. And since he could not curse his opponents, why not just kill them? And so the ruler began to kill them one by one, arguing that it was an accident. He eventually rose to the highest position in these lands, but within a few years, the ruler's position became so fragile that he decided to blame all the blame for his mistakes on the sorceress. And he declared that the cause of all the misfortunes lay in a curse cast by an old woman. Mel Lalute glares and then turns around, saying he's gone. They always follow him and ask where he's going. He says he's going to teach a scoundrel a lesson. Mel Lalute walks freely through the building. The guards follow him and shout to stop, then inform the others that he went in one direction. They decide to surround him. Sylphina Estfelania worries if he will be okay. Lisa and Nainali are also worried next to him. Granny asks if he really means to go to Gyuta Borval. Nainali asks if he even knows where to look for him. The castle is huge. Mel Lalute tells everyone to follow him, keeping their distance. He asks them to try not to be noticed by the guards. Sylphina Estfelania asks what he is going to do. Mel Lalute plans to make as much noise as possible. The guards shout that he is caught. There is nowhere else to run. Indeed, he stops. Behind him are bars. In front of him are the guards themselves. In front of him stands Gyuta Borval, the ruler. He read it with his skill and laughingly asks how he got here. Mel Lalute thinks he will lure him out. He says that he will punish the guards properly later. The other guards continue to stand in fear and even twitch at this phrase. Mel Lalute asks him if he is the ruler of these lands. The ruler is surprised. Does he really know him? He smiles smugly and says that although it is not surprising because he is the lord of these lands, Gyut Borval, Mel Lalute thinks what a nasty guy he is. Mel Lalute points at him and says that he has come to put an end to his evil deeds. He is surprised and asks what he said. Mel Lalute says that he killed his own political opponents and innocent people, making it look like an accident. The ruler does not understand and asks how he could say such a thing. Mel Lalute says that he got his position by killing people he didn't like. 7 years ago on a snowy day he killed Nainali's parents to get the witch Zeta to come here. All the girls are surprised. Nainali herself is especially surprised. Her grandmother stands in shock. Her eyes are covered in fear. The ruler shouts that this is nonsense. Sweat is pouring down his face. How will he confirm his words? Mel Lalute says that he has access to visions of the past. The ruler says what nonsense this is. He is slandering him. Mel Lalute says that in the winter of the year before last, ignoring the protests of the locals, he ordered the mountain to be calculated, the same thing. Mel Lalute says there was a rockfall, and he reported the incident to the capital, blaming it on his dead political opponents. Nainali barely holds back from crying. She puts her hands to her mouth to cover her mouth. Her grandmother watches everything with hatred. Mel Lalute asks if he should tell him about them. Mel Lalute takes out his sword and says that he will repent of all his sins and spend the next days in prison until the authorities come to capture him. The ruler continues to roar. The guards think to themselves that Gyut is capable of this. Someone would rather be surprised if Gyut did not do this. This is quite in the spirit of Gyut. They oppose the very person of the ruler, but the fact that he is a ruler, they cannot. The ruler jumps and orders the guards not to stand there like a pillar and to grab him immediately. His jumps are very short due to his height, so he looks more like a child. Mel Lalute knew it would happen. His sword is freed from all material. He holds the sword tightly in one hand, in the other something like a sheath for it. He wonders if he really has to resort to brute force. Mel Lalute is surprised. Someone is coming to them. A man asks what they are standing there for. Are they really scared of a child? The ruler is indignant that they finally showed up. Where the hell were they? This man has a scar all over his face, a bandage on his head, and a mustache. Next to him stands a man in full armor and makes strange sounds like little children make. The man says that the brother needed to put on armor. He confirms this with his sounds. The ruler orders to deal with him immediately, pointing an offended finger at Mel. Then he adds that there is no need to kill him because he needs to question him thoroughly. The man tells Mel Lalute to listen to him. Even the crying ones fall silent at the sight of them. He doesn't have time to finish before Mel Lalute knocks him down with one blow. His armored comrade shouts to his brother. Another one in armor also attacks. He too is defeated by Mel Lalute with ease, hitting him right in the stomach so that he groans in pain in addition to his words. The ruler trembles, not understanding how everyone is lying unconscious. The man with the scar, bandage, and mustache is indeed unconscious, and his comrade with the armor is trembling, clutching his stomach, as if kneeling before Mel Lalute. Mel Lalute says he will say it again. He says to confess all your sins and then wait in the dungeon for the authorities to come. Granny looks at them resolutely. Nainali is surprised by what is happening. The ruler is angry, but who is he that speaks as if he saw everything? Sweat flows non-stop from his face. His brows are furrowed. Mel Lalute confidently says that Mother Earth can see through everything. His eyes are still in skill mode. The ruler thinks he can receive messages from gods and dead people. He asks him if he is a medium. The bridge of his nose wrinkles with anger. Mel Lalute looks questioningly. What other medium? He thinks that he was mistaken. Then the ruler smiles sarcastically and thinks that well, okay. Lisa strokes Sylphie's ears. Mel Lalute notices and says that Sylphin Estfelania's ears are moving up and down. He can't help but think how cute it is. He reaches out and touches Sylphie's ear, causing her to scream. Lisa defends her and angrily asks what he's doing. Mel Lalute apologizes and says that he just thought that Sylphin Estfelania's ears were quite cute. Sylphina Estfelania blushes and says that she can let him touch her. Lisa is furious. Sylphina Estfelania is all red. Lisa screams that she won't allow it. Let him not touch her, not even come near her. Since then, Lisa has become more protective of Sylphie. The ruler thinks he can receive messages from gods and dead people. He asks him if he is a medium. Mel Lalute looks questioningly. What other medium? He thinks that he was mistaken. Then the ruler smiles sarcastically and thinks that well, okay. Mel Lalute reads the ruler's mind that he received a potion from a small man in a black robe. He assured that by drinking it, he will become the strongest in the world. The guards look questioningly. Mel Lalute does not understand what he has planned. Then he guesses and gets scared. He sees the potion, its characteristics. It is the miasma of an evil dragon, a potion containing miasma generated by the hot blood of a living evil dragon, contains the will of a dragon. If you pour it on yourself, you can get the power of a hero along with the curse of chaos. The special effect gives the used potion a limited skill, Curse of Chaos. All the abilities of the hero eaten by the evil dragon will become available to the one who used the potion, but the body will come under the control of the evil dragon. Mel Lalute thinks that no matter how strong he becomes with the help of this potion, if the body comes under the control of an evil dragon, and what idiot would agree to endure eternal pain? The ruler says it's time to use it. Mel Lalute thinks that although there is one, he doesn't understand the consequences at all, this ruler. Mel Lalute decides that before he uses the potion, he will take it away. He goes to the ruler, but the potion breaks in the ruler's fist, which makes him wonder if it broke on its own. The potion pours over the ruler. He begins to scream in madness. He screams that it hurts. He does not want to suffer. He asks to save him. Mel Lalute thinks with horror what is happening inside Gyute. Sylphina Estfelania screams at him not to do this, not to read this. He turns around in surprise. Sylphina Estfelania tells him that he is already infected with chaos. If he reads it, he will become infected himself. Mel Lalute asks her who she is. Lisa is surprised because Sylphina Estfelania was just there and now she is gone. Clara also looks surprised. Mel Lalute sees that Sylphina Estfelania is now possessed by the Earth Mother. Mel Lalute first thinks that she is just possessed by the Earth Mother and then, more surprised, thinks that the Earth Mother has possessed her. She says there is no time to explain, let him focus on what is in front of him. Mel Lalute asks if he can just read his status without reading his skills. She says she can. He sees that he has unique skills. He has a skill that allows him to greatly increase the defense of his body and equipment. The skill level is maximum. In case the enemy's physical attack level is lower than the skill level, the damage is completely nullified. In case the physical attack level is higher than the skill level, the damage is reduced depending on the difference in ranks. The charge skill increases the speed when moving forward and increases the attack power when colliding, but the Chaos Curse permanently causes all kinds of pain, which is a disadvantage. Mel Lalute thinks he is very strong. Thanks to the potion, he is equal in strength to the hero. The ruler is now infected with chaos due to the effect of the limited skill Curse of Chaos. The spirit and body are exhausted to the limit due to the effect of the hero's sorrow. All characteristics are replaced by the characteristics of the shield hero Galen Hardy's, programmed to kill everything that moves. Sylphina Estfelania says that now he is like a hero who was swallowed by a black dragon. He has consciousness, but the body no longer belongs to him. Mel Lalute says that he understands that if he reads it, he will receive a curse along with the skills. He thinks about what he should do. He looks at Sylphina and sees her contemptuous look. She tells him to stop reading it. Mel Lalute thinks that she is very weak. This is the status of Sylphie, not a goddess, although her magical power is much higher than his. Sylphina Estfelania says that he has all sorts of rude things spinning in his head. She just took over her consciousness. Her true form is different from his or hers. She would even say that it is completely opposite. Mel Lalute thinks that if she has taken over his consciousness, then he can read the characteristics of the goddess. Sylphina Estfelania says that she told him to stop reading it. Now he doesn't have the guts. It will only cause a nosebleed. It's better to solve the problem right in front of his nose. Mel Lalute of course understands that she is a goddess and all that, but she only keeps repeating not to do this, not to do that, and does not give any useful advice. And in general, this is Sylphie's body. Since she doesn't have her own, then let her behave more modestly. He imagined her completely differently. He thought that she was warming him with the warmth of her soft and elastic forms. That's how he imagined her. He even giggled. Sylphina Estfelania screams at him that he thought of something indecent. Now she can't read his mind, but it's all written on his face. The ruler keeps turning into a monster and screaming that he is in pain and asking to be saved. Mel Lalute remembers and thinks that now he needs to deal with this monster. The ruler, in a terrible form, screams that he is in pain. Mel Lalute thinks about what to do. The guards are scared and run away. Mel Lalute sees that the ruler is programmed to destroy all moving objects. Mel Lalute shouts at everyone to stand still and not move. If they move, he will attack them. The ruler looks furiously at one guard. He trembles and tells him not to come closer. The monster starts to go towards him. The guard falls back in fear. Mel Lalute says to stand and attacks with his sword on the shoulder, and immediately realizes that he is strong due to the hardening skill. Weapon attacks are S rank, so in general they will be S rank. Gyute's fortress skill is a rank, which is 1 rank less than his attacks. This means that the damage is reduced by a fifth. He is much smarter than the monster, so this is not a hindrance for him. But as soon as he inflicts a wound on him, it immediately heals, and at the same time he counterattacks. He steps back and realizes that he has little chance in close combat. The man in armor tells his brother to run. He doesn't understand what happened. Mel Lalute understands that things are bad. He decides to use the most powerful magic of the hero Drago, Thunder Magic. He uses Thunderbolt and he uses a magical barrier. Mel Lalute is surprised that he blocked it. The monster took almost no damage. He has the power of a shield hero. The monster says that he is in pain. The monster moves sharply towards those knights in armor and then hits the man who is unconscious, and the two of them, together with the man completely in iron, sink into the wall. Mel Lalute thinks that this is incredible power. Foam is flowing from the monster's mouth. Mel Lalute thinks and understands that he has completely lost his mind. The monster attacks Mel Lalute, who retreats. The monster misses and hits the wall, leaving a huge hole after the blow. Mel Lalute flies back, turns around, and wonders if everything is okay. Sylphina Estfelania defends everyone and tells them not to worry about them. She says that her divine powers are limited, but she can protect them, although no power can protect them from this attack of his. Mel Lalute smiles, thinking of Sylphie. If the monster's onslaught hits him, there's no way to collect the bones. With the special effect of the hero's sword, he can become invincible, but he can only use it once a day, so he needs to guess the moment. The monster attacks Mel Lalute. He keeps jumping back. He realizes that he has started swinging his arms faster, and he is also attacking from a blind spot. He understands that the monster has lost the rest of its mind, but its movements have become more refined. Sylphina Estfelania watches them closely. Mel Lalute attacks, but again realizes that no matter how many blows he lands, he receives almost no damage and immediately recovers, and with each passing minute it becomes more and more difficult to hit him. He breathes heavily and thinks that things are bad. He can only defend himself. At this rate, he will run out of breath and he will kill him and everyone else. In this case, he shouts at Lisa to throw him the fairy potion. She looks at him in surprise. Mel Lalute understands that he has no other choice. Elle attacks, but again realizes that no matter how many blows he deals, he receives practically no damage and immediately recovers, and with each passing minute it becomes more and more difficult for him to hit him. He breathes heavily and thinks that things are bad. He can only defend himself. At this rate, he will run out of breath and he will kill him and everyone else. In this case, he shouts at Lisa to throw him the fairy potion. She looks at him in surprise. Mel Lalute understands that he has no other choice. Let's go back a little after the battle in the city where the hero died. Then Mel Lalute asked Lisa what she wanted to talk about. She answered that she wanted to ask him about many things. She asked him why he was with Lady Sylphie. It wasn't enough for him that he had brought Musashi to this. He also did this to the Red Knight. Mel Lalute asked to give him a rest. He was a little tired, after which he suddenly fell on his knee. Then Lisa handed him a potion. He asked what it was, and she answered that it was an elven potion. It completely restores strength, physical and magical. He then read it and was surprised. This is the price of the potion. He can't take something so expensive. She replied that of course it was expensive. After the elixir of the goddess, it was the best restorative potion. She explained that it can heal even fatal wounds, and it also removes all negative effects. Mel Lalute looked and said that it was an amazing potion. Lisa told him to drink it. He objected. She said that it was okay. Such a battle couldn't help but exhaust him, especially since as far as she could tell, he was protecting Lady Sylphie. She then tearfully thanked him and asked him to accept the elven potion from her as gratitude. Mel Lalute then said that he protected Sylphie because he wanted to. He thanked her and began to take a sip. He then felt strength and thought that he had only taken a sip but no longer felt tired. He thanks her again. She then said that he should only ask her and she would give it to him at any time. She asks and now she can hear the explanations of why. Then they heard voices that they were not here. They would check there. Mel Lalute told her then that he would explain everything later. First, they needed to leave this city. Returning to the battle with the monster, Lisa asks him if he is injured, if everything is okay with him. Mel Lalute tells her not to worry, he is fine, suggests that they quickly leave. She throws him a potion, he catches it and thanks her. Now the one inside the monster, the shield hero, Galen Hardy's, he is going to read completely. As soon as he reads it, he himself begins to transform and scream. Sylphina est Felania screams, why, she told him not to read it. The curse of chaos spread to Mel Lalute. It was simultaneously sticky mud, sharp needles, and hot lava. He feels like he can't breathe, like his insides are being rummaged through. He experiences all kinds of pain. It's unbearable. He can't maintain his sanity even for a few seconds. He yells that it's not the time for whining. He opens the potion and drinks it. It hurts terribly, but not as much as before. He thinks he can stand the pain for about 10 seconds. He runs to the monster and shouts that this time is more than enough for him. She attacks with a sword. The monster defends itself. The special effect of the sword hero is invincibility. The monster screams in some language of its own. Mel Lalute says that now it is not only he who has the onslaught, so it must be painful for him. The monster uses recovery. Mel Lalute sees that he immediately began to regenerate. He shouts that this is what he was counting on. He uses the thunderbolt again. Everything glows and explodes. Mel Lalute breathes heavily. The bolt ends. A huge hole appears on the floor. The girl looks at him with hope. Sylphina est Felania says that he did it. Clara immediately runs to him with tears in her eyes. Mel Lalute smiles awkwardly and says that he won. Mel Lalute falls on his back and asks if this is the end. He searches for something in his pocket, takes out a potion with a heavy breath. He drinks it and says that the elven potion has restored his strength, but he still feels very ill. He wonders if it's because of the chaos curse. He never thought he would feel this bad. God forbid he ever experiences something like that again. Sylphina est Felania tells him that he is incorrigible, that he is going crazy again. She leans towards him and says that just think, he voluntarily accepted the curse of the evil dragon. Mel Lalute sees something and says that he hadn't noticed it before, but has her body really grown, even though only one part of it has grown. She says it's because she, Mother Earth, came down from heaven. She says the body should at least minimally match her, so she made a little correction. Mel Lalute says he understands and thinks she is worried about her appearance. Sylphina est Felania tells him he is a good man. She sits down, says he's just a smart boy and offers to pet him. She pets his head. He asks her to stop because he feels awkward. She says that it is not for nothing that he is the hero of their time. It looked like he defeated Ace Drago. He says it was because he was using his powers, but he had some strange feeling. He says he doesn't know whether it was intuition or a flash of inspiration, but it seemed to him that if he trusted this feeling, everything would work out for him. Sylphina est Felania wonders if these are the eyes of truth. Mel Lalute rises and asks what they are. She says that divine eyes are an ability available only to gods, and heavenly eyes are an ability given by God to man. And the eyes of truth are an ability that a person has developed himself into a unique skill. With the help of this same ability, one can find the most optimal solution based on accumulated experience. Sylphina est Felania wonders if these are the eyes of truth. Mel Lalute rises and asks what they are. She says that divine eyes are an ability available only to gods, and heavenly eyes are an ability given by God to man. And the eyes of truth are an ability that a person has developed himself into a unique skill. With the help of this same ability, one can find the most optimal solution based on accumulated experience. He asks if this is also Ars Drago's ability. She says that it is. Mel Lalute says that it is clear to him, after all, it is not he who is cool, but Ars Drago. Sylphina est Felania hits him on the head and asks why he looks so disappointed. She tells him to listen to the end. Mel Lalute rubs his head and says it doesn't hurt at all. Sylphina est Felania says that Ars Drago was indeed the owner of the true eyes, but he used this ability before he read it. Mel Lalute says he doesn't remember anything. She says he just didn't realize it. Only after he read Ars Drago, who has the same powers, did he realize he was acting on intuition. Sylphina est Felania tells him to remember that every time he found himself in a difficult situation, he chose the best solution. For example, when you defeat Hegel Ois, it is impossible to immediately master the skill you just acquired. But not in his case. The moment he decided to defeat Hegel Ois based on the information he had, he realized that he needed to counterattack when he was fully healed. He understands the peculiarities of unique skills and uses them to the maximum, and in the battle with Musashi and in other battles, he instantly made optimal decisions, and not everyone can do this. She tells him to be proud of himself. He is truly a hero of their time. Mel Lalute never wanted to stand out from the others, and yet deep down he hoped for something. He still wants to lead a quiet and peaceful life, and although reality turned out to be harsher than he expected, he will not say that he does not like it. He wonders why. He thinks that being someone to be proud of is not a bad thing. He smiles awkwardly. Sylphina Estfelania tells him that sometimes he acts like a complete fool, especially when he has no one to read. He thinks that indeed he let Lara get close to Marion and even kissed her, and was careless when he shot the magic bullet. Sylphina Estfelania says that he has no experience, so there is nothing to be done, but she asks him to be more careful in the future. Mel Lalute thinks to herself, this woman thinks a lot of herself, although what else can you expect from a goddess? Sylphina Estfelania says that they will end here and move on to the main issue. She says that the evil dragon has begun to act. Everyone looks at her in shock. Sylphina Estfelania says that they will end here and move on to the main issue. She says that the evil dragon has begun to act. Everyone looks at her in shock. Lisa asks if the evil dragon has really started acting, even though he is sealed. She replies that he has not done so himself, but through third parties. Haven't yet determined who it is, but it is the one who gave Gyuta Borval the potion with the miasma of the evil dragon. Mel Lalute says that he is also interested in who it was. It seems to have been a man in a black robe, or maybe there was a woman hiding under the robe. If even she, the goddess, couldn't understand who it was, then it's not surprising that Mel Lalute couldn't read it either. Perhaps it was some kind of god. Mel Lalute says that he came out of the wall and disappeared into the floor. This is what he read in Gyuta. Sylphina Estfelania says that if he can cross the border, then among those she knows, she does not even know who it could be. She suggests leaving the matter for now. She says that more importantly, the evil dragon's target is Mel. Mel Lalute sees Sylphina Estfelania as the old Sylphie who didn't like pepper. He chuckles and thinks that she has the same expression as then. Mother Earth tells him that he must be amused by this. He says of course. He says that he thinks of him as prey, but he is the one hunting him. She says that she likes his bravado. Mel Lalute asks her what he should do now, maybe go after the evil dragon himself. She tells him that bravado and stupidity are different things. She tells him that he is still weak. It is sad to admit, but until he becomes stronger, their hands are tied. She smiles slyly and says that since she is here, she will teach him a few lessons personally. Mel Lalute is shaking and asking her not to make such an angry face in Sylphie's body. She asks for forgiveness and is scared of his reaction. Mel Lalute realizes from Sylphie's sad expression that he accidentally overheard. He wonders if this arrogant goddess can be so easily made to apologize. Mel Lalute says that for him, Sylphina Estfelania is a symbol of healing. She says that rather she, Mother Earth, should be this symbol. She says she will tell him how he can become stronger. She tells him to read over and over again as much as possible. He asks if it is right to read strong opponents. He says he's heard it before. She asks irritably who it's from. He says it's from Ars Drago. He told him the same thing when he read the hero's sword. She blushes, coughs, and says that in any case, the black dragon may again be up to something evil, so he should be extremely careful. There is silence. Mel Lalute asks if that is all. She trembles and says that is all. He thanks her and says that this is very vague advice. She is indignant and shouts that it is not vague at all. She screams that he shouldn't have told her at all, that he heard it from Ars Drago. He could have pretended that he heard it for the first time and thanked her. Mel Lalute is surprised that the goddess is teaching him to deceive. Mother Earth says that she is so sorry to leave them, but she must go. She tells him to lift the curse on Sylphie as quickly as possible. Without her memories, she won't be able to use the power of the Priestess of Light. She asks him if he understood how to remove the curse by closing his eyes. He blushes and says that he understood. Mother Earth says that she would like to add something else. She forcibly connected with Sylphie's body, although she did not summon her and therefore caused her some harm. Everyone is afraid. What harm? They notice some changes in her. She now has golden eyes and a curvy figure. She looks at them innocently. Mel Lalute and Lisa simultaneously scream what she did to their precious sweet Sylphie. Lisa asks if she understands the consequences. Mel Lalute demands an apology. She apologizes, after which the real Sylphina Estefania regains consciousness and falls. She is caught by Mal. She recognizes him. Mel Lalute asks her if she is okay. If she doesn't hurt anywhere, she says no, her head is just a little dizzy. They tell her to drink the fairy potion. She says that it is very valuable. They tell her that everything is fine. She swallows, stands up abruptly, and says that it's amazing. She feels absolutely wonderful. Clara says that Sylphina Estefania has returned. She still had large parameters and was uneasy. Grandma says that it looks like she will live for a while. Nainali screams, trembling, that she was very scared. Grandmother asks Mel Lalute what he will do. She can lift the curse of oblivion at any time. She asks if he knows what will happen. Nainali asks her grandmother if there is a problem. Everyone looks at her in surprise and waits for an answer. The curse of oblivion is a very nasty curse. Even if it can be lifted, there is one nasty consequence. He doesn't know if it's best to tell her. He tells Sylphina Estefania to listen carefully. He may be acting selfishly and not quite rightly, and yet he feels he must tell her the truth. He says that once the oblivion curse is lifted, all her memories from the moment the curse was in effect will disappear. Sylphina Estefania looks at him with disappointment, her eyes full of sadness, as if she had already lost everything. She asks if it means that she will forget everything that happened this year, about Mel Lalute and the time spent with him. About their conversations with Clara and Lisa, about Grandma and Nainali. Will she really forget everything? Everyone looks at her sadly. Mel Lalute tells her that it will be so. Sylphina Estefania says that she does not want this. He rushes to Mel Lalute, shakes him, and says that she does not want to forget. She keeps screaming, why will she forget everything? He explains that the memories of the time when she was cursed or the lost memories of the past, she will have to choose one. Sylphina Estefania begins to cry. She says that she does not want to choose, does not want to remove the curse. She says that if she has to forget about him, then it's better to leave everything as it is. He hesitantly calls her by name. He pushes Sylphina Estefania away from him and says that she must return her memories. She convulsively shakes her head. Mel Lalute says that her mother, the village where she was born, she must remember everything. She must become a priestess of light again. He says that this is what she wanted before she lost her memory. She continues to cry and look at him. No one forced her, and it was not a childish desire. She became a priestess of light with noble determination. At a young age, she accepted her fate and, with a willingness to die and full determination, set out to find the hero's successor. He doesn't want to ignore her wish even if she herself doesn't realize it, so he already wants to say something, holding Sylphie's shoulders, who was crying at that moment. He is interrupted by Grandma Zeta, who tells him not to push her. She tells him to let her make her own decision. Grandma says that if she is going to lift the curse, it is better to do it quickly, but why doesn't she first visit her home, where she can think it over thoroughly? The guards bow to them, take the victims. They all ride in the cart in complete silence. Sylphina Estefania covered her face with her forearms. She says again that she does not want to forget. She is shaking and crying. Mel Lalute is sadly watching all this. Grandma says that she is hungry. Nainali apologizes for not having prepared a normal meal. They sit at the table together. Mel Lalute asks for forgiveness. They tell him not to apologize. He is their savior. Lisa turns to Sylphina Estefania and says that she is eating carrots, which she did not like before, and she says that she still does not like them. She says that it was just Mel Lalute who told her that she was healthy. Lisa smiles and says how great she is. Mel Lalute looks down sadly. Later he tells everyone that he will sleep in the wagon. Nainali tells him that all 6 of them will fit. He says that he is still a guy and sleeping in the same bed with girls is somehow awkward, although he could lie on the floor, but it would be better in a cart. Sylphina Estefania tells him that she will go with him then. She wants to be with Mal. In the end, they are sitting in the carriage together. She asks him if he remembers. He turns his attention to her. She says if he remembers how they first met. 3 days have passed since the church took her in. Sylphina Estefania remembers nothing. She can read and write and has learned about the world around her. 3 squirrels sit next to her and enjoy nuts. She looked at the squirrels, knew absolutely nothing about herself, no name, no age, no family, no home. She sits at the threshold of the door and again hides her face with her hands, buried in her knees. Besides, she couldn't talk normally with the Holy Father and people in the church. She says, why is she afraid? The squirrels look at her, then run away. She opens her eyes and sees a flower held out to her by someone. In front of him stands Mel Lalute, making a face, greeting her and inviting her to meet him, holding out this flower to her. She's shaking and scared, tears are coming to her eyes. He asks, she's Sylphie, why is she looking at him like that? He immediately apologizes and says that he didn't want to scare her, although he's lying, of course he did, but he was more likely going to surprise her. Sylphina est Felania pressed herself against the door. He thinks demonstratively and says that everyone in the village laughed when he made the face. Apparently, children react differently to such things. Sylphina est Felania fearfully asks for forgiveness and who he is. He introduces himself, his name is Mel. He holds out a flower and says with a smile that he lives alone on the very outskirts and that he is glad to meet her. She wanted to ask him something. He asks if he can just call her Sylphie. He allows her to call him just Mel. Sylphina est Felania asks him to tell her if he has any business. He replies that no, he just wanted to talk to someone during his breaks from work. She says that no one talks to her at all, she just has no one to talk to. She looks sadly at the flower. Mel Lalute says that it is clear to him. He smiles and tells her that then he will talk to her. He asks, she still doesn't know this city well. Then she thought he was a carefree and cheerful guy, and so he began to come every day at lunchtime and tell her all sorts of things. No matter how cold she was to him, he always tried to cheer her up. But suddenly he stopped coming. She was playing with squirrels and wondered if he would never come again. The squirrels start running somewhere. She gets up and sees Mel Lalute himself looking for Sylphine est Felania and wonders where she is. She suddenly rushes to hug him. He raises his hand and sees from the side how she pressed herself against him. She herself is also surprised. She moves away from him and says, hiding her eyes, that she is not at all happy to see him and did not want to hug him, so he should not think too much. Mel Lalute wonders if she is really angry. She tells him that she already thought that he would not come anymore. He begins to say that he wanted to come earlier. He explains that he was unable to come because his colleagues found out that he was leaving his workplace without permission and gave him a big dressing down. But he did his daily quota, tried not to cause trouble for others, and generally worked tirelessly. He takes her hand and tells her that he has a day off today after 2 weeks of hard work. He calls her to be himself. She asks where. He smiles and answers that one is a great place. She obeys and thinks that his palm is rough but warm. They arrive. Sylphina est Felania looks at the numerous flowers in surprise. He asks her, is she impressive? She says it's very beautiful here. He picks flowers, tells her she can talk to him like a friend. He asks her to wait for her a little. He braids a wreath of flowers and gives it to her. He says that recently her mother made the same wreath and that Sylphina est Felania is coming. He puts a wreath on her head and says that now she looks like a princess. She looks at him in surprise and touches the wreath. She wonders if he really took his first day off in 2 weeks to bring her here. She begins to realize that he has always been kind to her. He never got irritated or angry and always tried to cheer her up. She smiled widely and thanked him. It seemed like nothing special had happened, but her gray, everyday life was filled with a little happiness. All these moments are very precious to her. That night she hoped that the happy days would continue. Returning to the situation in the carriage when they were sitting together, Mel Lalute says that he remembers those days, then he really wanted to cheer her up. She grabs him by the clothes. He turns his head and calls her. She presses closer and hugs him. She tells him that it would have been better if he hadn't told her anything. That's what she thought until now. If she hadn't known that she would forget him, she wouldn't have suffered so much. Mel Lalute asks her for forgiveness. Sylphina est Felania tells him not to apologize. She doesn't think so now. If she didn't know anything and her curse was lifted, deep down she would be tormented by bitter sadness. Mel Lalute tells her that he will tell her everything. She looks up. He says that even the events he does not remember, he will be able to read with his appraisal skill. He strokes her head and says that he will tell her everything, absolutely everything, that she will forget. He smiles. She excitedly asks him to do it, to tell her everything. He smiles and says that even if she doesn't ask him, even if she hates him, he will tell her everything. She laughs and says that he is exactly like that. He also smiles and says that he will tell even if she hates him. She starts crying and says that she definitely. She closes her eyes and then confesses to him that she loves him. Mel Lalute looks at her in surprise. She lowers her head and says that she will not forget. She will never forget. She is already screaming that she will never forget. Then she openly cries and says that even if she forgets him, what happened between them. Even if she forgets everything, she will never forget her love for him. They hug, she cries even more. Mel Lalute realizes that she is indeed strong, not like him. He hugs her and says that he loves her very much too. It took him a lot of courage to tell her how he felt. It was dawn, everyone was getting ready. Sylphina Estfelania says that she wants Mal to do it. Nainali wonders if he will lift the curse. Grandma says that now he will not see her in any way he himself, although he himself could have lifted the curse. What a kind person he is. He is going to read Zeta first and then ask Sylphina Estfelania to close her eyes. He places 2 of his fingers on her forehead and recites a spell in an unknown language. There is a sign on her forehead is shining. Mel Lalute sees that the curse has been lifted from her. They ask her how she feels and if she remembers her name. Sylphina Estfelania asks Mel Lalute who he is. He smiles sadly and thinks to himself, so that's how it is. It hurt more than he thought. He introduces himself. She looks at Lisa and recognizes her. Now Sylphina Estfelania doesn't remember what happened in the last year, which means she only knows Lisa here and they are strangers to her. Mel Lalute asks Lisa to tell Sylph everything. He leaves and says that he will wait in the next room. Suddenly Sylphina Estfelania rushes at his back and hugs him, causing him to scream in surprise. Everyone looks at them in surprise. One grandmother proudly watches everything. Sylphina Estfelania asks him who he is. He wants to say that they will tell her everything, but Sylphina Estfelania says that she does not know him and does not remember ever seeing him or speaking to him like that. She doesn't understand why she felt uneasy when he turned away from her, why she hugged him to keep him from leaving, why she can't hold back her tears, why she treasures him so much. Mel Lalute read the last sentence in her head. He remembers her words that she will never forget her love for him and understands that this is true. He hugs her and thinks that Sylphina Estfelania is simply amazing. He says that she is also dear to him. She suddenly opens her eyes and says that she doesn't know why, but still, if he says so, then she believes him. Mel Lalute thinks that the Sylphie who doesn't know him, the Sylphie who only remembers what he doesn't know, she was still the Sylphie he knows. At the house, at a large table filled with all kinds of food and drink, Mel Lalute says that they are going to set out tomorrow. They ask the soldiers to send appraisers, so soon it will become known that Zeta was in prison on false charges and about the evil deeds of Gyuda. He says that at the same time, no one will know that Grandma cursed the town and that Nainali lifted the curse. Grandma looks at him and says that except for him, Mel Lalute laughs awkwardly at her answer. He turns to Zet's grandmother and assures her that she will definitely not be sent to prison. Nainali breathes a sigh of relief. The grandmother humbly says that she was prepared for this, so she will not be too upset if she is caught. Nainali is indignant and shouts at her grandmother. The others just smile, looking at each other. Zeta says that Mel Lalute has done so much for the two of them, so she will make sure that his efforts are not in vain. Mel Lalute smiles and says that he did it because he wanted to. Nainali begins to thank him. Sylphie Estfeliones and Mel Lalute turn to her. She says with a gentle smile that thanks to him they are saved. Mel Lalute laughs and says that it is nothing. Nainali continues to look at Mel Lalute with red cheeks and a blurry gaze. Sylphie Estfeliones between them turns her head convulsively and looks at their reactions to each other. She thinks to herself that she doesn't know why, but it irritates her. She herself began to blush, pouting. They say goodbye. They thank Zeta and Nainali for everything. They tell him to stop talking like that because they should be thanking her. She is sure that he will be fine, but still, he should be careful on the way. Mel Lalute smiles and thanks them. Sylphie Estfeliones also smiles brightly at them. Nainali approaches him very hesitantly and awkwardly. She hides her gaze. There are drops of tears in her eyes. She is already embarrassed and asks, he will come here again after all. He says that of course he will come. When he finishes all his business, he will definitely come. Nainali takes his hand, which holds the rope for steering the cart. She hugs his hand and tells him heartily that she will always wait for him. Mel Lalute looks at her awkwardly and blushes. Nainali tells her that she did it by accident. Mel Lalute then confidently says that he will definitely come. Sylphie Estfeliones continues to look at him with resentment. Nainali wants to say something else, but then Sylphie Estfeliones pulls the rope and tells him to go already with a face expressing jealousy. They all leave. Sylphie Estfeliones sits hugging Mel Lalute and looks proudly at Nainali. The carriage moves, Nainali and Zeta remain behind on the road. Nainali still looks after him with embarrassment. Grandma notices all this and thinks that it is still the hero who saved them, so nothing surprising. She exhales, not knowing if the day will ever come when Nainali gets married and she can see her grandchildren. Nainali asks her grandmother what's wrong with her, and she replies that it's nothing, she just thought that she would like to live many more years. The carriage continues to move, Sylphie est Filianis still hugging Mel Lalute, who awkwardly controls the carriage, not moving at all. He turns to her and asks her if she is angry. She proudly and contentedly replies that she is not angry at all. Mel realizes that if he uses the assessment skill, he will understand everything, but he is scared, so he decides to abandon this idea. During the few days they were on the road, he spoke with Sylphie est Filianis about the events of this year. Oddly enough, Sylphie est Filianis didn't look displeased at all. On the contrary, she listened to him with joy and even with some sadness. With the help of his appraisal skill, he could recall the events of those days that he had completely forgotten. Never before had he been so glad that he had such a useful skill. They are still driving, Sylphie est Filianis is almost asleep, Clara is enjoying her food, and Lisa is wiping her gun with a rag. Mel Lalute notices something interesting and calls Sylphie est Filianis, who barely wakes up all swollen and tired. She rubs her eyes to wake up. Mel Lalute apologizes to her and asks if he woke her up. She replies that he did and asks what it is. He calls her and says that he wants to show her something. She agrees without further ado and follows him. The four of them walk through the forest. Mel Lalute holds Sylphie est Filianis' hand and says that there are big rocks here, so she should be careful. Sylphie est Filianis, while walking with him by the hand, thinks that his palm is so hard, but at the same time warm. She keeps thinking along the way that she doesn't know anything about Mel Lalute, but she has a feeling that she knows him very well. They come out to a field full of flowers. Mel Lalute says they are there. The girls look at it with admiration and surprise. Clara screams how beautiful it is. Lisa looks around and says that such a sight makes all thoughts about the evil dragon go away. Clara notices something and asks Mel Lalute what he is doing. He is squatting down, picking flowers. He tells her that she will find out soon. He weaves the wreath again, places the wreath on Sylphie est Filianis' head, and says it is ready. Sylphie est Filianis turns to him in surprise. Mel Lalute says the same thing, that she really does look like a princess, or rather a real princess in his opinion. Sylphie est Filianis starts to blush. She stares at him. Mel Lalute laughs and says that it's not bad for a second time. Clara tells him that it's amazing. Sylphie est Filianis understands now. She presses her hands to herself and says that she fell in love with this man for the second time. She is talking about Mel. She now realizes that she doesn't even need to remember to understand how she used to love Mel Lalute, and now she has fallen in love with him again. She closes her eyes and with complete calm decides that they will create their shared memories. She rubs her wreath. It would seem like a normal, unremarkable wreath. Lisa tries to make a wreath and says that it was harder than she thought. Sylphie est Filianis laughs. Clara tells her that she is so cute. At this time in the kingdom, Marion Verdemian is getting ready and says that she is going on a journey. She sits on her horse and looks at Joseph, who salutes her and asks her to be careful. Suddenly, Marion Verdemian calls him father and asks him to stop, because she is no longer a commander or even a knight. She says that she has taken on the task of finding the hero, but it is a very secret mission. She says with a smile that now she is a criminal expelled from the capital. She asks him to forgive his hopeless daughter. He chuckles and tells her that for a criminal she has a very happy face. She closes her eyes, also giggles and says that it is because her cherished wish has come true. When she was summoned to the capital and expelled from the knight's company, she asked to be given the mission of finding the hero. She explained how important it was to find his sword as well. And although she was forgiven for her misdeeds, she wanted to atone for them with this mission, which is very brave. Joseph closes his eyes and says, "Oh, that fiery nature of hers." He tells her that in the end he never did anything for her. He followed orders and arrested her, and even when she joined the knights, he only supervised her. She holds out her hand to him and asks what it is. If he had not been there, she would have gone berserk much earlier and would probably still be sitting in prison. She is very grateful to him. He shakes her hand and asks her if she can handle it alone. She replies that she won't say that she's not worried. She explains that she must challenge the odds. She must learn to control the berserker state she has avoided so far. Her father says that it is clear to him, so that's how it is. He wishes her luck and asks her to take care of herself. They say goodbye. Marion Verdemian says she is leaving. She rides forward on her horse without looking back, leaving her father behind. And so, Mel Lalute, Sylphie Est-Philionese and Lisa arrived safely in Sylphie Est-Philionese homeland, the country of Philionese. This place is located in the northwest of Philionese and is called the Water Area. These are springs, a waterfall flows into it, everything is surrounded by vegetation. Mel Lalute is bathing and exhaling from how good he feels, like he is in heaven. Now he is bathing in a hot spring. They arrived right in this water area when the queen, that is, the mother of Sylphie Est-Philionese, learned about this. She went to meet them and arranged peace in their honor. His mother then told him that they were glad to see them, calling him a hero. He thinks of Alina Etz, Mrs. Philionese, how beautiful she is. He looks at the sky, in particular the moon, and thinks about delicious food, hot springs that relieve fatigue after a long journey. They were able to bring Sylphie Est-Philionese to her homeland. Now he can breathe a sigh of relief. He enjoys the bath, that his eyes are slowly closing. Then someone tells him that it is better not to fall asleep here because it is dangerous. He opens his swollen eyes and looks for who said that. His eyes widen in surprise as he sees before him the Queen of Philionese, Alina Est-Philionese. He steps back sharply and asks her several times what is going on, not believing that she is really here. She asks him if he liked their hot springs, while Mel Lalute tells himself several times that he shouldn't look at her. He closes his eyes, lowers his head. The queen laughs and says that he shouldn't move so far away from her, otherwise they won't be able to talk. He opens his eyes and sees the queen in front of him, and the thought flashes through his mind that, obviously, all dreams and hopes come true here. The queen says that he is a boy and asks if he wants her to let him touch them. He immediately enthusiastically asks if it is really possible, then he comes to his senses and again moves away from her, causing the queen to laugh. He finally asks her why she is doing this. Queen Alina says that she wanted to talk alone with the hero. The queen ponders, then says that maybe she should have snuck into his bed at night. He immediately imagines her asking for forgiveness for the intrusion. He hides his eyes and shouts again that both options are unacceptable. She smiles at him radiantly. She likes to have fun with him. He turns away from her completely and asks what she wanted to talk to him about. She laughs and then says that she is calm now. He doesn't understand and asks again if she really said that she was calm. He turns red. Queen Alina replies that she said so. Everyone in their royal family, when they grow up, becomes similar to each other, both in face and figure. Mel Lalute doesn't understand what she's talking about at all. She moves even closer to him as if she's deliberately having fun. He doesn't understand what it is that's poking him in the back. Queen Alina says that the girl is still too young to reproduce. She understands that heroes also have physiological needs, but she asks him to control himself. He is shocked by what the queen says. He tells her that he doesn't understand what she's getting at. She tells him that she came to ask him for a favor, but it seems he likes big ones. She smiles widely and says again that that is why she said that she can now rest easy. Mel Lalute thinks to herself if she wants to tell him not to touch her precious daughter. He says out loud that he has only bright feelings for Sylphie Est-Philionese, her daughter. Queen Alina says that this may be so now, but someday she, like herself, will become a grown-up girl. She asks him to spill out everything that Mel has accumulated inside. He does not understand who this strange woman is, what she even wants from him. Finally, the mother tells him seriously that it was half a joke, and he immediately thinks that is, she is half serious in her words. She says that 2 days ago a divine revelation was received. He asks if it is a divine revelation from Mother Earth. She sits down next to her and says that it is so, but Sylphie Est-Philionese did not tell her anything, and it did not look like a goddess had entered her. She smiles and says that means Mr. Hero also knows that Sylphie Est-Philionese was possessed by Mother Earth. Sylphie Est-Philionese's mother is currently a priestess of light, and it was she who held the seance 2 days ago. She says that she was very surprised by Lisa's story. In essence, spiritualism is a way to borrow a particle of divine consciousness and express its will to the world. She heard that Sylphie Est-Philionese was able to fully accept the personality of the Earth Mother. She thinks that her daughter has an amazing talent. Mel Lalute thinks to herself that this means that this is still not a normal state for her. Mel Lalute asks her what revelation she received. She replies that the evil dragon is assisted by unholy creatures. There is no doubt about it, that is what was told to her. Mel Lalute doesn't understand and asks about the unholy creatures if they are fairies. She says that she didn't think that Mr. Hero was so enlightened. The fairies are fickle and fickle. They previously created the hero's sword and gave it to Drago, but now they seem to have switched sides. Mel Lalute begins to think. He remembers Drago's words that fairies are absolute evil, so they will never be his allies, but they will not be his enemies either, so let him use them while he has the opportunity. He thinks that if he was telling the truth, then he should not be at odds with them but skillfully extract benefit from them. He asks the queen why not meet the fairies then, but she doesn't understand what he's talking about. Mel Lalute tries to explain that since they don't know their intentions, it's better to meet them and find out what they want. The queen suddenly smiles and says what was expected of the hero, or rather Mr. Mel. He immediately blushes. The queen says the question is how to meet the fairies. He asks, but they can't fly here. She replies that it would be nice, she will look for ways to meet them, calling Mel Lalute Lord. Mel Lalute says he feels awkward when she calls him hero or master, so he asks if she can just call him Mel. At first she is surprised, then she smiles and says, so that's how it is, it's clear to her. She says joyfully that he will become her son-in-law and son in any case. He is frightened and surprised. What son-in-law and son? The queen asks if this is not already a done deal. She holds out her arms to him and tells him to come to her, call her mom, and snuggle into her chest for a hug. He freezes in place, then screams that he won't do it. She laughs, asks for forgiveness. She says that he reacts so cutely and she wanted to tease him. She then adds that there is some truth in every joke because this girl's feelings, Sylphie est Filianis's feelings for him, are not just love but also boundless trust. He smiles at these words and tells her that he knows it. He tells her that while he has not yet fully figured out his feelings, to tell the truth, he does not know if he wants to marry her. He says she is his light. His lonely life was filled with dull work days. But when he first saw Sylphie est Filianis smile, his life became brighter and brighter. He feels that she is dear to him, and these feelings are sincere. The queen exhales and says that she feels dizzy. Perhaps she will go out first. He turns away and tells himself several times that he is not looking. The queen calls his name. He looks at her after she calls him. She bows to him and thanks him for saving her daughter. He understands that she spoke not as a queen or as a priestess of light. She thanked him as a tenderly loving mother. Some time has passed since Elinor left, but he has not yet climbed out of the water. He is still enjoying his rest with his eyes closed. A fairy appears, sings to him in her own language and dances. He thinks she is small, like a bug, and she dances. He understands that she is a fairy. From what Elinor said, fairies weren't that easy to meet, but was it normal that he found her so easily? He thinks that it doesn't matter, whatever it is, he needs to act friendly and talk to her to win her over to his side. He keeps looking at her and thinks that she seems not to have noticed his presence. He doesn't know what to do. She suddenly giggles and asks who this gloomy guy is or if he is a real hero. She asks if it might be some kind of mistake. He doesn't look like a puny bean pod. He angrily grabs the fairy, squeezes her with resentment, and then realizes what he's doing. His mouth opens in shock. She screams at him, what is he doing? Can't he see that it's Chipple in front of him? Mel Lalute thinks to himself that he only wanted to have a friendly conversation with her, and now he almost crushed her. She keeps hitting his palm and screaming at him to let go, calling him all sorts of names. Mel Lalute thinks to himself that, well, if that's the case, there's nothing to be done. He tells her confidently that he wants to tell her something. She immediately asks if he really wants to confess his love to her. She starts to blush, rubs her cheeks with her eyes closed, and says that he caught her by surprise. She doesn't even know what to do. Mel Lalute thinks his intuition is telling him that if he makes the wrong choice, things could end badly. Mel Lalute muses that the fairy has divinity. If you use the assessment carelessly, the burden will be too great. He wonders if it is really that easy to read. She keeps teasing him, can't he take his eyes off cutie Chipple? He reads her and sees that she is a fairy with a bad profession. Mel Lalute feels uneasy when he reads this. He doesn't understand what it means since she is a fairy with such a quality. He thinks, well, whatever, she's a fairy anyway. He stands up abruptly because the heat is making him dizzy. He thinks maybe he can read her status. She still won't calm down. She tells him not to look at her so passionately. She says that he should know that she will not give up so easily. She will torture him. Chipple will make him fall in love with her even more. Mel Lalute thinks that there is no need to read it and tells her that he is not going to confess his love. She says that he is not bad, he does not understand her logic at all. She says with a sweet face that it means he decided to flirt with Chipple, she is already starting to like it. Mel Lalute thinks to himself that he never intended to flirt with her, he decides to just ignore it. He asks her why she came here, she says that Chipple was able to interest him so quickly, it was easy as pie. She replies that she came to see what kind of person the hero is, he asks, and then what? She says that it is obvious that if he turned out to be a good guy, she would have made him fall in love with her and made him her servant. Mel Lalute smiles awkwardly and thinks, so that's how he understands, calling her sweet with a serious face. She is surprised and then says that she shouldn't tell him what she already knows, it really spoils the impression, she's even a little disappointed. He says no, he wasn't talking about her, she says of course that's what she understood. He tells her that she has a cute hairdo. She is indignant that it still concerns her. He says that no, definitely not her, he just suddenly remembered his friend. She starts to get angry and hit his hand with her hands and shout that she understood, she guessed right away. Chipple says how offended she is, what kind of a man is he, because he should praise Chipple more. She raises her hands and shouts that since this is the case, she will certainly make the hero fall in love with her. He says that it is clear to him, now it has become clear to him. He realized that this fairy easily answers questions, she seems such a simpleton. He is indignant that for some reason he connects everything with love, apparently it is better to avoid talking about it. Chipple has the secrecy, dexterity and cruelty characteristic of fairies, at will she can kill everyone around her. He decides that it is time to get to the point and end the conversation. He asks her if she is cooperating with the evil dragon, she does not understand him. He is surprised and asks if she doesn't know about the evil dragon, she indignantly shouts that of course she knows. She says that it's a shame not to know this because she starts to stutter and says that it's like a dragon but only evil. Mel Lalute realizes that she doesn't know. He tells her that they say there are fairies who cooperate with the evil dragon and hinder him. He asks if she knows anything about this. She asks what they were talking about from the beginning. She says she doesn't care what the other fairies are doing. Mel Lalute exhales and thinks that it looks like a fiasco. She is indignant, what kind of reaction is this? She assumes that he just thought something bad about Chipple. He replies that he doesn't and she gets upset with him. He asks her where he can find out about other fairies, asking for forgiveness. She tells him to ask the king, why not? The special effect of the hero's sword mentioned the fairy king. He now understands it, he talks about it. He asks her how he can meet him then. She replies that he hasn't been out for a long time, so there's probably no way. He says that he will probably have to go to the land of fairies. She laughs and says that he will not be able to get there, but Chipple can take him there, of course. He tells her that this is bad luck, she will have to take him with her. She makes a cute face and says that she won't take him. He barely holds her, it's dangerous because he almost crushed her. He asks if she can take him there, she says yes, if he lets her go, she will help. He wonders if she's too. He falls silent and thinks he will try to read her state a little. His head starts to hurt, he thinks that it is not easy to deal with divinity after all. Then the fairy looks at him and then uses a flash, after which everything becomes light and bright. She bites his hand, flies away from him and screams that let him have it, that's what he deserves. Mel Lalute regrets it. He jumps but can't reach her. Chipple says that people are going outside more often these days, maybe he should try his luck there. Mel Lalute thinks this is good information, but he would like to have Chipple on him at all times. Some people are asking what that was, someone just saw a flash there, it's Clara, they ask her to stand still and cover herself with at least a towel, because Mel is there. Clara calls out to her brother, Lisa is behind her trying to cover her. She jumps right into the hot springs towards him. She hugs him, Lisa yells at her to stop, immediately enjoys the water and then asks her what she's doing. Mel Lalute immediately yells that it's a misunderstanding, he didn't do anything. Clara asks him if he was just talking to someone. He replies that he was talking to that fairy over there. Mel Lalute looks up and sees a fairy. Clara asks him if there is something there. Then Mel Lalute realizes that Clara can't see her. Chipple starts to get angry and wonders if he doesn't notice her, so he shouldn't scare her like that. Mel Lalute realizes that this one doesn't seem to like Clara very much. The fairy says goodbye to him. Mel Lalute thinks to herself that things are bad if things continue like this, then she will simply leave. Mel Lalute says she's gone. He's making a plan in his head since it's come to this. He demonstratively says that oh well, it's good that she left. If he had experienced that bright flash again, he wouldn't have been able to stand on his feet from the pain. He wipes his head and says specifically, it's good that she left. Chappelle begins to smile sarcastically and suspiciously. She yells at him that he himself told her about his weaknesses. She says that he is stupid, after which she uses this outburst again. Clara closes her eyes. Mel Lalute takes it normally and thinks that she caught him by surprise last time, but if you squint, then overall it's bearable. He yells at Clara to jump on the light source and grab it. Chipple looks at him in surprise, not understanding what is happening. Clara jumps and screams that she can't see anything, but if this is her brother's request, then she will do everything. She grabs the fairy with her mouth, who screams in surprise. Mel Lalute says that this is great and that Clara has excellent instincts. Mel Lalute takes the fairy from her mouth, says she's doing well. She says she doesn't understand anything, but she likes being praised. The fairy, unconscious and weak, lies covered in saliva and moans. Mel Lalute thinks that she is somehow alive. So he has the key to the fairyland again. Now the question is how to make it work as a key. Lisa asks what was that just now, so bright. Mel Lalute thinks what a heavy atmosphere. After catching Chipple, they arrived at the center of the kingdom, the capital. Before going to meet the fairy king, he said that he wanted to prepare, and then Sylphie Estfilianes offered to accompany him. Even in your own country it can be dangerous. Sylphie Estfilianes tells him that there is a shop over there that sells delicious meat dishes, and that shop over there sells cute things. Mel Lalute thinks to himself that he is protecting the princess. He picks up a small cage and says that only one bug is a little annoying. Chipple is indignant. Who did he call a bug here? This insect cage or bird cage is surrounded by magic. Fairies can freely teleport through space, so the cage has magic that prevents this. Chipple says that she can't let Mel Lalute be alone with another woman and pouts. Mel Lalute picks up the cage and asks her if she hates him. She replies that of course she does, after all, he locked her in this cage. She tells him that, however, he must take responsibility for winning Chipple's heart. Mel Lalute pushes the cage away from him, which radiates love. He apologizes to Sylphie Estfilianes for taking this strange thing with him. She squeezes his hands and says that it's nothing, it doesn't bother her at all. She's glad that she can walk with him. She's very glad. The fairy in the cage yells at her what she just said. She tells her not to dare flirt with him. Sylphie Estfilianes looks at the cage suspiciously. Chipple rudely asks her what she wants, to stop looking at her like that. She finally saw her and asks for forgiveness, because if she doesn't look closely, she won't be able to see the fairies. She smiles and tells her that she wants to be friends with her too. She asks her if she minds. Chipple thinks how cute she is. She blushes and says that if she insists, then fine. She agrees to be her friend. She thanks her. Mel Lalute thinks to herself as they admire each other that this fairy really is such a simpleton. Sylphie Estfilianes tells him, suggesting that they go to the weapon shop first. He says that he needs a sheath for this sword, as it is very inconvenient to carry around. Sylphie Estfilianes says it is true and dangerous. Mel Lalute says that the towns along the way said that making a scabbard takes 2 or 3 days, so he refused. He thinks that in the weapons shops of the capital they will tell him the same thing, but he would not like to waste so much time. Chipple asks her what he's talking about, because a hero's sword should have a proper sheath, shouldn't it? He says he knows it, has already found out, saying that her king brought them along with the body of the hero Urta Drago. The fairy says that the scabbard for the hero's sword is a magical artifact. If she is not mistaken, it has convenient functions. Maybe that's why they brought it. Mel Lalute asks in surprise if this is true. Now he wants them even more. They stopped at a shop. They enter the armory and say hello. The old man asks them what they are looking for today. He takes out his sword and says that he is looking for a sheath that will fit this sword. He asks to let him look at the sword. He is surprised as soon as he sees the sword. Mel Lalute holds out the sword. The old man's eyes widen. He says that this is the hero's sword. He rejoices and asks if he knows about it. He replies that, of course, it would be a sin for a blacksmith not to know about this sword. 30 years ago, he saw it only once in the city where the hero died. He couldn't even imagine that he would see him pulled out of the stone. He starts to act. He looks for something in the boxes and says that he is somewhere here. He holds out the thing and says that if this thing is adapted, it will fit his sword perfectly. Mel Lalute starts to ask if he understands that he has so much time. He tells him that an hour is enough for him to do it. He is surprised and shouts, "Is it really that fast?" The old man laughs. Mel Lalute immediately says that he can't leave the sword here. The old man tells him not to worry. He says that he only needs to look at it to understand its size, just let them wander around to while away the time. He thanks him and says that it will help him out a lot. They walk out holding hands. Sylphie Estphiliones asks what they will do next. He says that he needs to think about it. They are in some kind of workshop. He asks her if she needs any equipment. She replies that she doesn't seem to. He asks if she needs a robe. He thinks it would look good on her. He points to the clothes. She blushes and says that if Mel Lalute says so, then she will try it on herself. She takes the clothes and says, leaving, that she will try it on. While Mel Lalute looks around and thinks that there is so much different equipment here, suddenly a scream comes from the fitting room. She moans and says she's in pain. He wonders if she's hurt, so he moves the curtain and asks if she's okay. She is sitting, not yet wearing clothes. Mel Lalute blushes and is surprised, lets out a silent scream. Sylphie Estphiliones is also embarrassed. He asks for forgiveness. She mumbles. In the cage, Chapelle feels ashamed for them hearing all this talk. She comes out and says that she tripped on the hem of her robe. It seems that it was longer than she thought. It could be dangerous for her. Mel Lalute doesn't really react. The one who is still red, Sylphie Estphiliones, says that if it is Mel Lalute, then she doesn't mind him looking at her. He looks at her questioningly. Chapelle asks, after all, he came to her specifically to stare. He shouts that this is not so and that it is a misunderstanding. Mel Lalute asks what about armor. She says she has never worn one. He explains that she has little physical strength, so perhaps some light armor would suit her. He asks the shop assistant, apologizing at first, if this shop has the lightest armor. The shop assistant says that if he means the lightest, he will provide it. She tells him that she tried it on. Mel Lalute then offers to look. He coughs at the sight of it. She tells him that it is loose. He closes his eyes convulsively and says that he would not approve of calling himself an older brother. She says that he is not her older brother. He says that it is still impossible. She says she understands and suggests that maybe when she gets older, she will be able to wear something like this. Mel Lalute immediately imagines her as an adult. It seems she wants to become like Queen Eleanor. He blushes even brighter. He shouts that she can't wear something like that. Even when she becomes an adult, she can't show herself like that to anyone except her brother. By the way, according to Mel Lalute, it seems that this armor has good protection. She changes clothes. They go out together. They stand opposite each other. Sylphie Estphiliones asks him what they will do next. He answers that he has one thing he has always wanted to try. Mel Lalute uses his unique appraisal skill to find a cheap product, appraise it, and become rich quickly. They look at a lot of things. They went around different shops, looked at vases, paintings, weapons, and even cats. He sadly thinks that the prices were approximately reasonable everywhere. All the shops in this country are honest and they have good appraisers. He notices something in front of him. It's a magic shop. He looks at his palm and thinks that he too would like to have at least one limited skill. Limited skills can be acquired later through magic or items, and then a person can choose what they like. However, there is a limit to the number of skills acquired. Even for people with high status like heroes, there are a maximum of 5. And for Mel Lalute, the threshold now is 3 skills. If you have too many skills, not only will they not work, but they can even reduce strength. Moreover, they remain with him for life. Although they can be easily replaced with stronger skills or analogs, you need to choose carefully. Sylphie Estphiliones asks him if he wants to look around this magic shop. He says he does. He is interested in one limited skill. She is surprised and asks what this skill is. He proudly answers that this limited skill is self-regeneration. Using the assessment depending on the circumstances can be very taxing on the body, but with self-regeneration it will be much easier, in his opinion. Sylphie Estphiliones says she understands. Mel Lalute says that this skill is simply very expensive and rare, of course. There's nothing to be done about rarity. He suggests at least looking at what's in the shop. The saleswoman greets them and says that the cutie has visited her again. He says that they just came here to look, to take their time to examine the goods. She looks at Sylphie Estphiliones, smiles sweetly and says that's how it is. She asks what they are interested in. He replies that he would like to obtain a rare skill of self-regeneration. She is indignant. Is this really for him? She asks what his power level is. He replies that he recently received rank D. She sighs with fatigue. She calls him baby and asks if he doesn't know that almost all self-regeneration skills can only be obtained with the help of magic potions. All of these potions, without exception, are powerful agents. She explains that if a person below rank B drinks it, they will inevitably die. Sylphie Est Filiones is immediately worried about Mel. The saleswoman tells him that it is better not to. Of course, she will be happy if they buy her goods. However, she has no intention of selling something that is so risky for the client. She says this with her head down. Mel Lalute asks her if he can at least see this potion. She says that since they just came to look, then it's okay. She asks them to wait and then shouts to a worker named Galetta that they want to see the Iris Spring potion. She holds a small chest in her hands and says that she is carrying it. She opens the chest. Mel Lalute immediately reads its characteristics. This is the Iris Source Potion. It is a magic potion and costs 7,500,000 units of money. Its special effect is that it gives a limited skill Earth Goddess healing. After drinking the entire potion, it is a strong remedy. There is a risk of instant death. The downside is that it requires a power rank of or higher, or the combined use of items or magic to instantly restore it. The skill effect is permanent, low recovery, no limit on the number of uses. She says that this potion has not yet been sold because of its properties. They only have this self-regeneration potion. Mel Lalute thinks that he should show this to Chipple, and that the effect is quite good if he uses the evaluation little by little. Then self-regeneration will give him the ability to use it infinitely. With the help of the effect of the hero's sword, he can neutralize the disadvantage of this potion. He understands that there is just one problem. He understands that it is very expensive and says it out loud. However, he understood what he would be dealing with. Such a price is justified by its rarity. He does not have enough money to buy it. Then suddenly someone pulls him by the sleeves.